until it's actually live, even though it says that we're live or not. Yeah.
All right. Hopefully there's not a lag because a lot of my live videos, there's like a 30-second delay from when I talk to when people hear what I'm saying. It's crazy.
That's weird. I had that with our broadcasting software, and I had to change some settings.
Yeah, really weird.
All right, I think we're live.
Welcome to Simply Having Idiosyncratic Talk. I am here today with the one, the only, the fabulous, the awesome, the amazing Dallas Kinard. Dallas, happy Saturday. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, good, Kev. Good to be here. It is a happy Saturday. Looking forward to some awesome discussion.
Awesome. Okay, so then that's into that.
No lag, right?
No lag.
Everything sounds good.
I mean,
awesome.
The Facebook overlords haven't came into us yet. They might sit there and transfer the signal, have hidden cryptography, and
sounds like you're a conspiracy theorist, Kip.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I will say I've came up with some pretty neat conspiracies.
Remember when it was fun to be a conspiracy theorist, and now it's like it's a sin if you say anything that remotely questions the narrative?
I have fun with it. I just try to watch who I say it to, because there is definitely, as throughout all of time, there's a subculture of people who just take whatever's out there and they're like, that's fact, that's real, boom, it's in my head, and I believe this.
Yeah, I just can't understand people like that. I'm not judging them, but I just can't understand them. like I have never been that type of person.
Listen to, you can't spend one side of a coin. There's always two sides, and not only that, I play D&D. There's D20s. There can be 20 sides to something. There's, it's like movies. There's that one little, that one line where it's like that changes everything. If you have it in or leave it out, it changes the whole entire outlook. And the learning.
My whole thing this past year has been who to trust and how can we know that what we're being told is true. And like we as the citizen, not people that are in the know, how can we possibly, and I ask people that, I'm like, when you say I watch Fox or I watch MSNBC or whoever you watch, I'll be like, how do you know that what they're telling you is 100% free of bias and absolutely objectively true? And you'll be, it's amazing how uncomfortable people get when you say these things. Like they go, what? Like, how dare you question me? Or how dare you question my existence? Or like, I'm not doing any of those things. I'm simply asking you honest questions that really anyone should be able to answer. And my answer is, I don't know. As you know, I'm a man of faith.
That's a fair answer. That's a fair answer. Yeah. I don't know.
As a man of faith, I say I don't know a lot because that's what faith is all about, not knowing and still believing. That might be irrational to some people, and that's fine. They're entitled to that opinion. And I think there is irrational faith too. But I'm like, if you have faith that you can fly and you jump off Mount Everest, you're probably like, but who am I to judge, right? We're not supposed to judge anybody now. If that makes you happy, soar the skies. I just pray that you're landing, you don't feel a thing. And that's the whole live and let live thing, right? If you want to be a bird, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
I kind of hate to say it, but honestly, since we haven't had any major wars on the earth, there's definitely some people that just aren't there. I say, you know what? Just try to help the population. That bottle of bleach. Take off the do not drink. So, in about 2-3 years, see if some Darwin.
See, I think that would do the opposite effect because when you know how human nature is, whenever you say don't do something, we immediately do said thing. So maybe if we took do not drink, people would say, I probably shouldn't drink that. They would use their own judgment, right? Unless they're kids, but kids don't care about labels anyway. So it reminds me of a story. When my dad got his first BB gun, he said he got it for Christmas. And his dad said, now, son, here's what I don't want you to do with that. Don't take it out in the backyard and aim at a glass bottle and have target practice, okay? Bad idea, don't do it. My dad said the very first thing he did was go out, saw a glass bottle, took aim, fired. You know how every opposite has an equal and opposite, or every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Bounced right off, literally came right back to his face and hit him right here. So at the same force, boom.
Yeah, Christmas. That is a Christmas story.
Exactly. So it's a miracle that he's not blind. You know what? I don't know what brand it was. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't.
After that?
Say again?
Did they let you have a BB gun when you were a kid?
Yeah, they did, and that's the story he told me, and I listened. Yep, I was like, absolutely not. And then I was able to move on to a 22 and go groundhog hunting. So that was, you know,
Nice. Oh, so
I started baby steps. Oh yeah, I used to. It's not something I do on my own. It was always just with my dad. But
that's awesome.
yeah, I actually thought rodent hunting was more fun than hunting deer. Just waiting for, you know, seeing that groundhog to pop up and then, you know, use your sharpshooter skills. And yeah, because they were tearing up this farm, and the horses could break their legs if they would run into their holes, you know, and that was rough. So it was kind of like, well, we need someone to come here and exterminate. And we're like, hey, you know, that sounds like a fun Thursday evening thing to do after school. So, yeah, you know.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, right there, by the way, you cut out. Like, I saw your mouth moving, but there was no audio, so I just don't know. And that was, is it Chuck? I want to make sure I got everyone's names right. Okay. Yeah, it was kind of like there was a glitch there, so I just want to make sure you were aware of that.
That's the Matrix. That's cool.
The Matrix glitched.
Beeping in. Following
Yeah.
the hole from Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
And all like that.
Yeah, I got out of hunting the older I got. It was something that I did a lot. You know, I bagged quite a few, and we're not trophy hunters. We hunt to eat well, kind of like Joe Rogan. And so I was raised on venison, and you get sick of it after a while, but then in hindsight, like, I was pretty healthy. You know, it's probably good that I was raised on venison. But yeah, and then I just lost it, and I was just like, you know what? I don't really feel like working hard all week and then getting up on a cold Saturday morning at 4 a.m., getting all this gear on, you know, going out there into the woods, sitting in a tree for hours waiting for sunlight, and it just wasn't for me. Some people live and breathe that lifestyle. Me, I'm like, no thanks. I like my cozy bed. So
I've never hunted. Now, I've definitely Mom had a 22. Mom was part of the NRA. You know, and we'd take the rifles out, the shotguns. You know, shot a few 45s.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, it's neat. You know, maybe a little target. So I've had Jade and Trent, you know, with the BB gun, and I printed out the zombie targets, and Jade got on the head right there. She's like, "Yay, Daddy!" I'm like, "We're ready for the apocalypse."
Yep. That's awesome. There's actually a tower that reminds me of if we ever do have a zombie apocalypse, which, by the way, I'm ready. 2020, come on, where's the zombie apocalypse? You know, it's not over yet. We still have a few weeks of 2020. And, who knows with the vaccine? Every time I hear about this fast-tracked vaccine, my mind goes to one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is I Am Legend. Do you remember that storyline?
Yes.
Cure for cancer. That movie's a big conspiracy theory. Yeah. You know, basically they cure cancer, and then what ends up happening is everybody turns into these, you know, zombie-like monstrosities that can't be out in daylight, and Will Smith's the only guy left. So I don't want that to happen.
An evil, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of where my mind goes. But there actually is this tower that's in West York. It's on 30, and I used to pass it every day, like going basically going into town when you're on 30. There's this like abandoned tower off to the left if you're going towards the city. And I remember one of the guys that say again.
So like when you're going towards York, because you'll have like New Oxford, Abbottstown, and York.
Yeah. So when you get to we're on 30 and you get to that Sheets that's right before like the city. It's like right across from I think it's Christmas Tree Hill.
There's the Sheets and Turkey Hill. Yep.
Sheets. You go through that light and then you bear off to the right like you're not going into the city, but if you want to go out to like West York, out to the mall and everything like that, you bear off to the right and you just keep following. It's kind of a windy road at that point. Well, off to the left, next time you're out there, you'll see this now. There's this abandoned tower, and it's probably been there. It's been there since I was a kid. And I remember one time, this is bringing back memories. I remember one time I was reading Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's original Spider-Man run, and I think it was the Vulture issue. And I think in that issue, he's got like an abandoned tower that he lives in or whatever. And I always thought, yeah, and this tower looks like that. So I just remember putting that together. I was reading that issue, and then I just looked off, and there was that tower. Like I was in the back seat, my parents were driving, and I was just reading those comics. And so I have read a little bit. I'm just not – I haven't kept up with them. Anyway, somebody from YTI said we drove past it together one time, and just randomly we were talking about random things, and then we both looked, and they said, hey, that tower, zombie apocalypse, you and I are meeting there. I was like, it's a date. So we time-stamped it, and every time I drive past that, I think, all right, man, he who shall not be named. We are going to be meeting there. But I hope that day never comes.
Now you just told all our viewers you're going to be overrun.
Yeah.
Hello,
Right. Yeah. I don't even think I told my wife about that tower. So you guys, this is all new.
Go ahead, yell, everybody. This is top secret stuff.
Exactly.
Look, they left.
Now I can't actually see our viewers. Is that something you guys can see?
At the top of the screen, it says like live flashing. Once in a while, on the right side of live, it'll have like a number or something. That's how many people are viewing live.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I don't think my end tells me that. I just see live in red, but there's no numbers next to it or anything. So interesting.
Yeah, right now it doesn't have any numbers because they left again. But people are going,
That's all right. And I assume this will get uploaded after the stream's over?
Yes. So
okay, cool.
We're
so
waiting until
we're
waiting until we get like 10 or 20 or so episodes, and then we'll pull up do the website and branch off to YouTube and so on and so forth. We just wanted to get like it's at least a little catalog before it's just like you come here. Huh? Of course, this is episode 4, so we're still getting the bearings and whatnot and getting that population list. But we do have.
I think that's cool.
We got 2 viewers.
I think, sweet. Hello, 2 viewers. No. All 2 viewers.
What's up, Andy? Can you see the comments?
So there's as many viewers right now as there are genders, right, Kip?
Yeah.
All right.
You can pretend whatever world you want to be. So,
your truth, my truth, right?
I'll call you whatever name you wish for me to call you. Unless you're an asshole, then I have some very graphic names.
You can change your name. That is arbitrary. So, and Elliot, I'll call her Elliot Page. That's fine. Oh, stones have been thrown.
Tomboy had a boyish look, anyways.
I kind of think she might have put it down too. I don't know.
It's got a little something.
Okay.
If she wants to be a boy, okay, cool.
Whatever. She's rich, and it's like rich people can do whatever they want. Like you can be a tree, whatever.
Oh, sure, yeah. You can be whatever you want to be. You can think you can be whatever you want to be. That's fine.
$1 you can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah. My question. Go ahead, Kip. Go ahead.
Elliot Page said that. I just wanted, to just say, just step outside, look up at the stars, look at how vast the universe is. And in all this universe, you'll see I don't have a flying fuck.
Yeah.
Why attention? Why?
That's what it is. Let's be honest.
If it's something that you want to do, great. But when
didn't she just come out as a lesbian like months ago or something like that?
But I thought she was always lesbian. I mean, I don't care what you do in your bedroom. Some people use strap-ons and whatever. I don't care. If you're gay, go ahead. Good for you, boo-boo. You do you. You know?
Yeah.
As long as you're not harming yourself or anybody else, go ahead. That's how I feel. But yeah,
I think we agree on that.
Bruce
my motto is
hero.
Say again?
Bruce Jenner is not a hero. You know? Not a hero. I'm like, okay, you did surgery. Okay, congratulations. I mean, it's like putting a spoiler on a car. Okay. So you think you look cool now? Okay. I hope you're happy. I don't care.
Right. As long as they don't make me pay for these things, do what you want. Like, I shouldn't have to pay for things that I don't care about or I don't agree about, you know, and I get that could open up a whole can of worms about taxing and all that stuff. But I think with that specific issue, I shouldn't have to pay for gender reassignment surgery.
That
I just
your own medical or whatnot, and I think at that point,
job or something.
I think at that point, especially if it's not life threatening to stay your gender, which I don't know how many cases there actually are of that, but if you want to change, go ahead and change.
Right.
When you're dying, that's cosmetic, not life saving. You know,
like if putting I was gonna say, putting my faith aside, if I'm just looking at the world from a neutral standpoint, I don't care what you do. Okay, like whatever you want to identify as, you know, I have my own personal views on all that stuff. Obviously, I think everybody does. Actually, I don't think anybody's 100% neutral. So, but do whatever you want to do as long as you're not, and I say this, physically harming people. Because if you say emotionally or spiritually, that opens up a huge can of worms, because then you could say, well, anything could mentally or emotionally harm somebody. You know, like wearing the color purple could remind somebody that when their dad died or they were raped by their uncle, he was wearing purple. So now they find the color purple offensive. So you can't go into that rabbit hole, because then everything's offensive. But physically harming people is where the line should be drawn for obvious reasons, you know?
Yeah.
So whatever your beliefs are, like that's why this might be a controversial take, but you know what? You invited me on the show, so I'm going to give my controversial takes, right? Westboro.
You to be you, buddy.
All right, man. Let's talk about Westboro for a sec. Every decent human being agrees Westboro is trash, right? Like they're a garbage cult. However, I will defend this.
Westboro Baptist Church.
Westboro Baptist Church. Yeah, sorry, I needed to clarify.
You were talking about it today. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
People
sorry.
try to protest Jeffrey, the guitar player and like starter of Slayer, one of the most metal, evil, satanic, band. And during his funeral, I'm like, these are the people that carve Slayer in their head with a razor knife. So he did protest it 3-4 blocks away.
Yeah. Well, here's what I want to say about them really quick. Here's my views on people like them. And like, let's just include all the radical groups, like everyone who's out there saying really nasty things, whatever, whatever views they have. You actually have the right to have those views in this country, whether we like them or not. That's not the question. The question is, do they have the right? And yes, if they want to go out there and stand on a public street corner and yell all kinds of obscenities and vulgarities, guess what? More power to them. They should be allowed to do that. Again, I think 99% of the population would disagree with their message, and rightfully so. However, to try to shut them down or cancel them because, oh, well, they're saying things we don't like, that's the whole cancel culture thing, which we're seeing a lot more of lately. But I will always tell people this: I can't stand Westboro Baptist as much as anybody. However, until they start physically harming people, they're allowed to do it. So guess what? We should stop saying, shut them down. Well, no, that's not how America works. Like, we have freedom in this country, because those same people, if they want to go out there with their views whatever they are, they wouldn't want to be shut down by people with dissenting opinions. So it's like, that's a give and take, it goes both ways. Freedom goes both ways. And sometimes that's unfortunate, but that's how freedom works. It's like tolerance. In order to be a tolerant person, everyone loves to believe they're tolerant, right? Well, in order to be tolerant, you must disagree with who you're tolerating. Nobody tolerates people they already agree with. You tolerate what you disagree with. That's what tolerance is. So when everyone says, I'm tolerant, and then you say something they don't like and they want to cancel you, you say, well, no, you're not tolerant, because you wouldn't try to cancel me if you would tolerate what I'm saying. So, end rant. There you go, Kip.
Well, I do know that you and me, we've talked a lot of times, and I love
Plenty.
it. And we have some very stark differences, and you're
Sure
right in that. And I think that society nowadays has definitely lost just because we might disagree with something doesn't mean that we should lose compassion towards each other.
Right. That's why a lot of these same people are hypocrites that say they're like the secular humanists that'll say my life is based on empathy and compassion. And I'll say, wow, like some of these people are like, really? Hey, those are great things to have. However, I'm not seeing much empathy or compassion for people that don't think the same way you do. And then, of course, they get angry and say, well, those are intolerable views. So it's like, well, that's subjective.
I think it depends on the person that you're talking to, because I do know the way that you, I, and everybody else conceive groups of people or groups that people subscribe to. One person talking for that is like talking for that whole entire group on Twitter.
Yes.
And it's like it's kind of like, when you have a football team, just because one dude, is just, slacks off and does drugs and hookers on the weekend, but the other guy, the other team member, he goes to church every Sunday, he helps out the community, he does, the soup kitchen, but
yeah, he's an upstanding citizen.
One negative person, the whole team. So right. I do think that and honestly, that was one of the purpose of us doing this podcast. And, I want the individual, because there's so much generalizing. It's like, if this
echo chambers,
that's what they all think. If this thinks this is what they all think. And it can't be that way, because mean, as many people as there is in the world, there's multiple personalities. There's different experiences.
Oh my gosh, we're all snowflakes. We're all unique.
I've gone underneath the handle.
I'm a snowflake.
I'd say I'm Sergeant Snowflake of the Millennial Council. I'm the troll that trolls the trolls. Like, dude, Xbox Live, on the 360, on Halo. People, I've been, that's the time I've been called a faggot the most in my life. And all these different things.
We're already being censored now because you dropped the F-bomb.
I was the one being called.
The overlords are like,
and also, I wanted historical accuracy. Just like what? There was one kid I used to play with online, and I cut that off real quick, but just because he was just too toxic. But he would sit there on Halo. Remember playing Halo? It was 1 or 2. I think it was 2.
Yeah.
You could get the hammer. And if you grabbed the hammer, you jumped up in the air and you slammed.
That was 3, I think. But it was awesome.
Okay, 3. And with the dome in the grass, and you can go in and out. He would stay on top of the dome, and I'd snipe off the side. I'd camp, and I'd watch for him. And I'm like, okay, guy coming out the side. He jumps up, and he's like, I call this Hiroshima! Bam! Dude, these are probably Japanese kids. That's not cool. We're going to get hacked. We're going to get thrown out.
Yeah. That reminds me, how, to go off on something a little different, we talk like we're in 2020. And, of course, in 2020, it's incredible for multiple reasons why race is still, like, such a hot button issue. Like, anytime, like, race, like this year especially, has been a crazy year. I have questions though. Like as someone who likes to believe I'm a critical thinker, I'm obviously not perfect at it, but I try to, and I think that's what counts. When people try to think,
Yeah.
you know, instead of just blindly believing things, try to think a little bit. That's what with the whole mainstream narrative. You don't just want to blindly believe. There could be some truth to it. I think, like they say, like there's truth to every lie. You know, there's some truth to every lie. For the most part, some lies are lies, but generally speaking, when it comes to race, I actually sit back and find it incredible that we're still using not arbitrary, but those two elementary labels like black, white, you know, like we're in 2020 and you would think that we would have progressed to the point where we don't call people colors anymore. Like, and I just find it incredible. Like, and we're all guilty of it. Don't get me wrong, but I just find it like we act like we're in such an enlightened time in history, you know, like compared to the past. We're more enlightened now than we've ever been. We're more progressive now than we've ever been. And yet we still call people by colors. Like, I just think, isn't the goal, like Roddenberry's utopia, to not call people by colors? And then it's only certain colors that are acceptable, because I can't call an Asian person a yellow guy, and I can't call a Native American person a red guy or a red girl, you know, like that would be considered offensive. However, I'm allowed to say, hey, there's a black dude, or I'm a white guy, and that's fine. No one bats an eye, but yellow and red, off limits, you know? So, you know the song, red and yellow, black and white, we are precious. Wait, hang on, what did you just say? Can you repeat that verse?
Never heard that. Now,
say the first two again. No, go ahead.
I have heard Avenue Q's, everybody's a little bit racist sometimes. And
that's true. That's 100% true. Nobody's free of prejudice. Like, we're all human. We do it.
Now, I'm not speaking for any one color or anything of that. I've
Be
just
careful.
white in, you know, suburbia, and in some, you know, less, you know, ghettos and stuff. So, you know, I can't speak for anyone. I'm not even speaking for any denomination. There's always going to be some type of bigotry. If it's not race, then it's going to sit there and be the height. Like if we all became the same color, which honestly, that's what I say to, you know, help solve racism. Everybody keep procreating with mixed colors till we're all one color. And guess what? It's
we're all the boring same color then, right? Wait a minute though. Hang on, Kip. I thought diversity was our strength. If we're all the same color, where's the diversity? Are you saying you want to cancel diversity?
No, diversity will find a way to be in, and it'll be like judging people by the color of their eyes, or like the size of their hands, or the color of their hair. I mean, I didn't know that
status
to say, and I remember hearing when I was growing up, look at that redhead. I'm treated like a redheaded stepchild. I'm like, what? And then when I heard about Irish, because I have Irish, you know, my great grandfather came over from escaping the potato famine, and so, you know, I'd seen all the "Don't hire the Irish" signs. I'm like, hold on, but we're white. What? So they're going to find something, and it's going to be something.
Absolutely.
And the ones who are in power will use that for the sheep. That's how I see it. They will use it to divide us. I believe that we should come together more. I think we should kind of go back. I don't know if it ever was, but at least in my world, it seemed like when I was younger, where we should get back to, we should all just agree that the government sucks. I mean,
F the government, total anarchy, yeah. Right?
It's anarchy towards us. I mean, most of your news is
it's kind of crazy.
People paying these pretty people to tell the middle class that it's the upper class that's the problem, or to tell the middle class that the poor people's the problem.
Yeah,
it's a power.
And the people,
we are pawns. That's what we are. They honestly, the ones who start most of this, don't look at us as we're fighting this grand battle. I don't care which side of the aisle you on. If my political view, there's alt left, there's alt right on the keyboard. I am spacebar. I kind of metronome. because that's the only way I can, at least me logically, find something.
You've got your foot in one camp. Is that what you're saying? You're a little bit alt left, a little bit alt right. You know, some days you're far left, some days you're far right.
I would love my gay friends to be married and can protect their marijuana plants with their shotguns.
That's pretty good. I like that.
You know, I have the American flag up in my house. I have 3 different versions of the American flag up in my house. You know, that I had to get the girlfriend the Yee one. You know, because she loves Ranger Smith. He's funny. But yeah, I believe if you just listen to one side, then you just become entrapped into that side. Yeah. And so,
do you do much browsing on Reddit? Just question.
Yes. Oh, dude, I've had 14K things on one of my accounts. I have 2 other ones because it's Reddit.
Yeah. I was reading a post yesterday about echo chambers on Reddit. Would you agree that there's some echo chambers on Reddit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you also agree that our politics is probably moderated by some lefties and probably not many people on the right?
I would disagree with that because the whole Cambridge Analytica. I believe that monitored. I believe the leftists did it first. And there was a bigger fraud in there. But the work that
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, with when Obama was the first president to even, as you said, Reddit. He was the first one to do the AMA. Ask me anything.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, wow.
And he didn't ask me anything, and I thought that was awesome. You know, and he'd answer the questions and whatnot. You know how an AMA works. And so at the end of it, when his sign off was this Reddit thing, not bad. So that's when we started seeing the memes of Obama. Not bad.
Okay, yeah.
And
gotcha.
So, yeah, you definitely had more of the left because you had Silicon Valley. You had that tech world, that leftist, a lot of them hard leftist world.
Oh, yeah.
And so they were this many years before. I mean, we're talking, I'd call Google leftist. I'd call Apple leftist. I'd call,
Sure. It's weird though because they don't own that. Like even though it's obvious. I mean, if you've ever seen Tim Pool's discussion on Rogan with Jack Dorsey and his legal lady or whatever, it's obvious. There's so much obvious left-leaning bias on social media. I just wish they would own it. Like we all see it, but the fact that they won't own it just shows how shady they are. Oh no, we're neutral. We're politically neutral. It's like, guys, if you think you're right, just say it. Just say, yeah, we're a left-leaning platform because we believe that the left way is the correct way, and we think that the right way is the incorrect way. So we're a left-leaning platform. And now it's insane because you've got Parler? All these leftists are saying that Parler's a right-wing echo chamber, as if all the other social medias like Twitter and YouTube and Facebook are 100% bias-free, and Parler's now the only one it's a right-wing echo chamber. And it's like, no, it's actually the opposite. You guys are all leftist echo chambers. People see it, and we're leaving to go to one where we can freely speak without having overlords. For now, by the way, I say that for now. Who knows? One day Parler could turn into a Facebook. You get different moderators in, different ownership in, and all of a sudden, people might leave Parler, and then there's a new one. It's just this never-ending cycle. I just wish people would own it. Like if I had a social media site, I would just be upfront and say, now listen, I'm a conservative. However, everyone's invited on this platform because I believe in free speech. So everyone who's on here, I don't even think I would have hate speech rules. That might be going really far, but I think hate speech is another rabbit hole. Well, what is hate speech? How can we properly define something that's so subjective? Because like I said, the color purple could be hateful to somebody. So should we ban the color purple? It sounds ridiculous, but it's 2020.
As long as there's not threatening of bodily harm.
That's my thing. If there's threatening and there's rallying of violence, obviously, it's like yelling fire in a crowded theater, that shouldn't be tolerated. But if you're going to use the N-word, this might be controversial. You know what? you have the freedom to be a racist. Everyone can call you out on it, rightfully so. But if you want to call people names, people do it all the time. I mean, look at what's Miley Cyrus's sister? Huh?
We already had a platform for that. We had 4chan.
Yeah.
4chan. Yeah.
I mean, that's where QAnon started. QAnon or whatnot.
Think about it. Do you think that these woke moderators that are trying to police all this stuff and try to delete anything that's bad, right? Do you think they're actually changing these racist minds and saying, you know what? These racists are going, wow, I shouldn't use the N-word on social media. That makes me a bad person because I was blocked from Facebook. I've learned my lesson. I won't call people that anymore. Do they really think that what they're doing is fixing it? Like racist people are going to be racist people. They have the freedom to do that. They shouldn't be, but they're going to be. Like, how do you change their mind? Like, how would you sit down with a member of the KKK and convince them not to be a racist? Like, that's my question.
Yeah, there was a black guy.
Really?
Yeah. He's like best friend.
Sweet.
Like, and he's like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, 20 or 30 Klan people. He's like converted.
And he converted Head Dragons in
That's
Frederick.
awesome.
He was in Frederick, and they meet in Mount Airy and whatnot.
Okay,
whatnot. And he did a whole entire book about doing the KKK, and he'd go there with a Bible and go through the Bible, and they go back and forth. Well, this shows because Cain's black and whatnot. This is where it allows me to do this. This is where it allows me to do this. This is where it allows me to do this.
That's awesome. He does that though. It's also, doesn't that kind of speak not to defend them, but in a way that speaks to those KKK members that are willing to actually have a discussion with someone that they don't like. Like right there, we got to give some points.
The ones that do, and he's
got to give them some points.
And he has a secretary to handle things because he does know. They really don't know that he's black until they see him. And then it's a question whether they stay or not and talk. People are going to be rude. There's going to be race.
It's human nature.
I don't agree with their thoughts, but
sure, any decent person doesn't,
There's hate flows through this world quicker than anything. Most of the social media, most of the main reason why most of us on social media going through these videos and stuff think one way we do is from either fear or hate. And it directs the narrative of whoever is paying for that content to be sent.
And another thing I like with cancel culture and the left, and I speak in general terms, there's always outliers, there's always different people, but in general, when we generalize, people say don't generalize. Well, you can generalize sometimes, like in general, most people have 4 limbs, right? In general, people have 4. And if I say that humans have 4 limbs, is that being insensitive to people that don't, or is that just the general fact? Where was I going with that? Crap, I hate when that happens. You guys ever have that happen?
You're good. You were talking about the cancel culture.
Cancel culture. Right. When they go after, like, let's bring up, have you guys seen the whole Candace Owens and Noah Cyrus back and forth recently that just happened?
No.
Okay. You can look this up, fact check me, But did you guys even know that Miley had a sister named Noah?
Yeah. I saw her at some award show recently. Yeah.
Did you? Okay. I never knew this until yesterday. I'm like, I've never heard this person talked about. I actually think she's more attractive than Miley. That's my personal opinion. Just throwing that out there. However, she proved herself to be a racist. Now, I don't know exactly how cancel culture works, but I imagine once you say something racist, you're always labeled a racist. Like if you say one thing racist, they say, oh, you're a racist. Like they just can't wait to pin that on somebody, like, and what it is you're a racist, I'm not, ha. Like that's what it really is. It's a self-righteous virtue signaling. That's why they're so quick to do it. They're not like, well, hang on, let's just find out why they said what they said. Let's sit down. If it's somebody on the right, they're not going to do that. They're going to racist, like, aha, confirmation bias confirmed. But if it's somebody on the left, well, maybe they didn't mean it that way. Like when Joe Biden said, what did he say about black kids? Or was it rich kids are just as, or no, poor kids are just as smart as white kids or something like that? Or, you ain't black if you don't vote for me.
I heard
the left
that.
was so forgiving. Like, oh, well, like, let's dissect that. Let's really make sure maybe he misspoke. But if any politician on my side of the aisle said anything even remotely similar to that, racist, like we told you so, and generally speaking. And I'm just like, that's the kind of lenience. Yeah.
Politics, all they do all day is argue. I grew up after my mother. She's like, all politicians do all day, just yell at each other. They argue. And then I think it starts coming down to the individual. I mean,
yes.
Are you going to sit there and whatever you put in your mind is going to affect who you are, how you act, how you feel. So if you are going to start taking that time and watching all this stuff, like, I've watched the debates, but I don't watch everything, political, just because the people that do, they just they start imitating that. Like when we were younger and we'd read like Spider-Man and Batman, we'd want to go out and we wanted to do the good thing. We wanted to help out the dog.
I still do.
And I try my best. And so you still have crap. I just trailed off.
That's all right. While you think about that, let me finish what I was going to say about Cyrus and Candace. Basically, I don't know if you saw the controversy with Candace talking about the guy wearing a dress. I forget what his name is, but she was basically saying it might have been. She just said we need to bring back masculinity. I'm like, men wearing dresses isn't masculine. That was her comment. Not going to give my views on that. I'm just going to let that's what she said. So, hey, I got an office joke in there. Yeah.
Good job.
But anyway, so Candace said, men wearing dresses isn't masculine, and I'm paraphrasing. And then Noah came back with a comment that she apologized later for it, but I'm going to paraphrase it. She used the word nappy ass hose regarding, like, basically saying he wears that dress better than any of y'all nappy ass hoes. What? And then, of course, her apology on Instagram was, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to offend anyone. Like, oh, really? You weren't? Like, she literally says that. You weren't trying to offend anyone with that statement. That was a completely non-offensive statement. I didn't know the context of the words and, just the whole, please forgive me, cancel culture. I want you to pay for my records and everything. And because I guess she's a singer, too. But it's just like, it just shows you like the backtracking. Now, shouldn't the cancel culture be completely done with her? Like that was an unforgivable sin. She should never be allowed back. She should never call herself on the left again because she has just proven her true thoughts about black people. Like that's how I thought it worked. Now, on my side, we would forgive and say, oh, okay, well, if you truly mean you're sorry, well, then guess what? That was a racist thing to say. Don't say it anymore. Don't act like that anymore. And all is forgiven. That's how it should be, right? Forgive and forget. We all make mistakes. Nobody should be canceled permanently for something they said. I just think that's ridiculous. Actions, yes. Actions, yeah. Like if you're a rapist, I'm never trusting you again. Like if you're a molester, I'm never trusting you again. And I think you should do time for that, life in prison, whatever. I'm actually more harsh. I'm actually a capital punishment guy. I know that sounds harsh, but I think that there are certain people that the world will be better without them. I know that sounds like a really nasty thing to say, but I'm just being honest. I'm just being my honest self, Like, I think there's scumbags out there that they should be given the talk, whatever they believe in. They should have a priest come in, talk to them if they're religious. If not, then that's fine. You get a nice meal, whatever. But I think they should go bye-bye. Like, if you're going to be that harmful to society, I don't think people think about it this way, but it's like, would you want to pay for your child's rapist? Would you want to pay for his 3 meals a day and gym membership? I don't think anybody would want to do that, Like, it's easy to talk about other people, but when you talk about stuff that's close to home, then all of a sudden it seems like the rules change a little bit. My whole point of all this, though, and I talk about this a lot with people, I think in our culture, people don't focus on human nature enough. And I think human nature is one of the reasons we have all these problems, because human nature is naturally selfish. You know, we're tribalistic. We naturally want to be around people who think like us, look like us, talk like us, act like us. Everybody has that basic, and I guess you could say it's survival instincts, but we all have that. And I think whenever these people blindly trust these leaders, they forget that they're human beings, they're a complete package. They have human nature. They're not these perfect, individuals that stand up there and everything they say is gospel and we should just drink it like Kool-Aid, and consume it. So I think human nature is ignored most of the time, when actually I think it's very important to pay attention to. Like, you could call me a pessimist, but if there's a politician up there promising all these things, Trump included, and they're going to say these things that all sound good, and like I know you said you've had frustrations with Trump, like not doing some of the things he said he's done. My biggest one: why isn't Hillary in jail? Yeah, I will hold him to that.
Foundation in. I wanted the whole Clinton Foundation in. Not
yeah,
but okay. I'll start off with one member. I want the whole foundation.
Oh, show. Yeah. They're friends. The Clintons have like a gym membership in Trump's building in New York. Like, they are friends. There's many pictures of them together. They are personal friends. Bill and Donald go to Epstein Island together. I mean, they're buds. Like,
that's crazy, isn't it? Then you have like
Epstein got most of his girls from freaking Trump Resort.
Some of them for sure. Yeah,
one of the
down in Florida, absolutely. Yeah,
wow.
They took a lot of people from it.
It's a big club, and we're not a part of it. We're not.
Right.
We are the taxpayers, so we are the money.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you guys this. Do you think, like I know a lot of libertarians would say that taxation is theft. Do you think that is an honest definition? Like, the government is taking money that you made from you and using it on what they want to use it for. Is that theft?
Here's
I agree.
I believe that we should have a choice. Now, what I mean by a choice, I don't mean just black and white. I mean, because they tax you when you buy something. They tax you when you get paid. They tax you while you live. They tax you while you die.
Yeah, it's a racket.
And the only way that we have our bargaining chips with the government is for, like, when a candidate sits there and says, like, Bush Sr. said, no new taxes. He had to add taxes, and that's why it was 4 years.
Yeah.
His son lasted longer than him, and he was a little bit of a nitwit. He could dodge a shoe, though. I was proud of his reflex, the dodging the shoe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe, definitely in like the community, my roads, of course, I got to pay for that. I do believe that.
Yeah.
I think it is a little weird. Now, of course, I am not an accountant. So when we pay for like school tax, like, you don't have any kids. Well, you have fur babies, right?
2.
Okay.
I have as many fur babies as there are genders. That's what I always tell people. I'm not that. I don't do that. Like, if you think I go out there trying to piss people off, I don't. I feel like this is a safe enough space so that I can be myself.
Yeah,
Judgment-free zone.
A joke is a joke, and if you get too cramped on a joke, I mean,
you can't cancel comedy.
I'm not. I grew up.
Laughter's the best medicine, guys, right? If we can't have a little bit of fun on this marble in the middle of the universe, come on.
Being a millennial, I grew up with Mel Brooks and South Park. I don't take offense. Shit.
Right. Isn't it amazing, though, how many people do that also grew up on that? Like, come on, like the South Park generation, we're so offended all the time. Well, I'm not. I actually didn't watch South. I wasn't allowed to watch South Park, but I know about South Park. Yeah, I have the internet. But
right.
Yeah, it's just amazing. By the way, totally random. Is South Park still made with? Isn't it made with like paper or something, like the animation?
It used to.
Oh, it used to be. Okay.
Things like that, but it would take so long to do where
I imagine
computers and being able to do it through computers, and it is amazing to go back to what they're 20 seasons, right?
More than that, yeah.
Wow.
23 or 24. So if you go back 24 years ago, because I was in middle school when that happened, you can watch the transition because of their computers. They're able to pop out one episode in a week. So that's why they are so quick. Like Simpsons,
they're real topical now.
Simpsons would take 6 months to do an episode.
That's still hand-drawn animation, right? Simpsons is.
They might do hand draw through the computer pads now or whatnot.
It's like Chinese sleep.
Yeah.
But wherever the animators are, who knows?
Yeah.
So South Park's able to, in 1 week, nail out an episode so they're current with whatever goes on. They've been right there. And I was a little upset because now HBO Max, they have South Park on. And they took out, it was like 2 or 3 episodes. One of them was they had their version of the Justice League, the Super Friends. So
Excuse me. Yeah.
And Jesus, they did have Aquaman.
He would have Aquaman.
And it was Buddha and a few others, but they wanted to introduce Muhammad.
At least they were being inclusive. They included everyone.
So of course, they got death threats saying that, we are going to bomb your studio. Because in the Korean, it does say that you're not supposed to do a depiction of Muhammad. That is, blasphemous, you're sentenced to death. Because they bring back the Old Testament, that fury, that brimstone, that aggression. So they, even when they first showed him, it was him in a panda suit. Yes, I am Muhammad.
I think I remember seeing that. Yeah.
And so
but that wasn't good enough, right?
And then I think they did end up taking it off, but HBO axed those episodes. I'm like, as soon as
because they're insensitive.
When you fight comedy, if you take one thing
they might
away,
as well ban the whole show at that point.
Yes, because even South Park's movie, Bigger, Larger, and Uncut, they made fun of their own animation and how they walk. So they were like Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks was amazing. Blazing the Saddles is still a masterpiece. It could not be made today. Robin Hood Men in Tights. That was the first time I saw Dave Chappelle.
I think I have seen that. Yeah, he had the pumps. Yeah.
They made fun of themselves along with it. Like, I'll make fun of myself. I'm not saying out people. I am not pushing hate or anything. I will do a joke. Certain people I won't go do jokes with, like, in front of my grandmother, but
right. You respect your audience. Yeah.
There's a difference between, letting out jokes and even at a point ideas, because comedy and philosophy, it can fall into a thin line. But I'm not going to push hate or try to do anything to destroy your way of living or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. So you're a tolerant person.
Try to be, unless if you're an asshole. Now, if you're I do believe as an American, I have the right to offend.
That's right. That's why I mean with the whole hate speech thing, like if somebody says, now, Kip, that was hate speech, what would you say to them? Would you say I have the right to say that? Because anybody can call anything hate speech. There is no way to define it.
I would
say
it's
whatever's offensive.
I would say I'm sorry that that's your opinion. Maybe pick up a book. Maybe expand the mind a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe can we use that against them? Like anything they say that I disagree with, I'm just going to say that was hate speech. You should be canceled. Let's see how they respond with their own medicine.
Here's one thing with cancel culture. Cancel culture is almost like boycotting. And essentially, cancel culture is just boycotting. I don't like this because of this, and we're going to say no. And we want all these other people to say no. If you're like on Twitter and you get your money from Instagram and shit, I can understand why you're going to be so upset. But guess what? You are not technically, your body might be standing on American soil, but
Yeah.
those types, those communications, those comments are going through privatized businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do think that we as individuals do need to fight for the right of our data. I do feel that, but in the time being or whatnot, did you read the terms and conditions? You know, you have to be.
Who reads those?
Yeah, if you're going to sit there and, you know, be entirely complacent with what's going on, you have to bend to that. And yeah, I don't like that. I just don't.
Yeah. I want you guys, if you've ever heard of Jesse Lee Peterson, did you ever hear of that guy on YouTube before?
No.
Okay. If you want to get entertained, probably one of the most hilarious podcasts, and it's unintentionally hilarious, by the way. That's the best type of hilarious. It's unintentionally hilarious. I just wanted to throw that out there. Watch anything with Jesse Lee Peterson. He's a guy out in LA, and he does kind of what we're doing now, but he's just a really interesting guy. He lived on a plantation when he was young. Like he literally, he's old enough to have lived on a plantation, so he knows what racism's all about. But he's actually on the right. He's actually conservative. So like he has people on of all different views though, and he puts them on what he calls the hot seat. And he has a very funny way of talking. It's some sort of, I don't know if he had problems as a kid or it's some sort of lisp or something, but he has a very distinct voice. So when you hear it, you'll be like, oh yeah, once you've watched him enough, you'll be like, that's Jesse. Nice. Yeah. But he gets people, and he goes, you ready for the hot seat? And he gets them on the hot seat, and he sits there and just roasts them. And like he asks them ridiculous questions. And like he's just got these crazy things like that he does, like, you know, like these tics, I guess you could call them, where whenever he says the word lesbian, he always has to yell. He goes, lesbians! Like that. It's so weird. He's like, have you ever, seen lesbians before? Yeah. But like, he had a BLM person on there, and he goes, do you love white people? And they were like, it was hilarious to see how squirmy they would get in their seat. They were like, I don't hate them. And then he'll just say, do you love white people? And they'd be like, if they don't answer the question, he just keeps repeating it. It's just hilarious to watch. So they'll sit there and dance, and be like, well, I got one or two. And it's like everybody, imagine if it was reversed, we're all thinking, holy crap, the amount of racism just coming off of this person right now is incredible. But because they're the right skin color, we're all just going to, turn a blind eye and say, well, historically his race was oppressed, so we'll give him a pass. He can be racist. It's hilarious to watch. So I'll have to send you some stuff, Kip, if you ever have time. I know we exchange stuff all the time, and you can send me stuff that you recommend. But I just figured I'd plug Jesse because he's hilarious. I don't always agree with him either.
and yeah, because I'll listen to some left and some right stuff, as
every critical thinker should.
Well, yeah, you can't just, if you just listen to one side, you'll shoot. That's just how I feel. But they're the two twins, the
Hodge twins.
I think that's it.
Yeah, my wife likes them a lot.
They do the jokes and whatnot. They're funny. They're very funny.
They are funny.
They're funny.
Yeah. They are funny. Yeah, the Hodge twins. They've like spiked in popularity recently. I used to actually not be a fan of them. Like I thought they tried too hard to be funny. Like that was just my opinion. Like I'm just like, you can just, when there's that kid in school who's really trying to be trying really hard to get laughs, and everyone can tell, and no one ever laughs at him. That's kind of how I thought they were. Now they've gotten, it's weird. They've gotten funnier over time. So like I feel like they're fine tuning their comedy, and now like the thing. I mean, it's easy to be funny in 2020. There's a lot of things to make fun of. So. Right. Yeah. But other than that, I wanted to. I guess I was finished talking about the whole Candace Noah thing. I know that was conversations ago, but I thought there was another point that I wanted to make with that. and now I've lost it. That point that you had, did it ever come back to you, Kip, that you were trying to think of when I went off on that?
Oh, I forget. We kind of go off on plenty of things.
Yeah, I always tell people that.
And you and me, sometimes we'll like jump back and forth. Like, it's funny because even sometimes when we'll talk on, I'll go on one of your posts and whatnot, and we'll go back and forth. Sometimes I think it's funny when you and me start numbering things.
That's when it's on, man.
And we know what the is, and then it's just like sentence. Paragraph, sentence.
I'm gonna be brutally honest. There are days I'm like, Kit, shut up and let me get on with my day. All right? I'm just being honest with you. I love you, but yeah, there's time. But no, I here's the thing. I like, at the end of the day, I like that you challenge me, because that's how I see what else is out there. Because to get personal for a sec with my channel and my page, about 5 years ago, that's when I started to be open about my personal opinions. I was actually, like, even when you knew me in person at YTI, I was pretty neutral. Like, I never talked. You remember me ever talking about this stuff before? Like, you probably thought, what happened to Dallas?
You talked, that was a constant, and I thought it was funny most of the time.
Yeah. I definitely talked constant.
Definitely had that, that to me, no homo, this beautiful innocence to you back then. And there was like, because also you didn't go hard. Well, at least you didn't talk hard on religion, and I don't recall you ever saying anything about politics. And even when I was
young,
didn't
care.
My mom said, 3 things you don't talk about in public or in work. You don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics, and you don't talk about what you do in the bedroom. Okay?
That last one might be getting more popular. Yeah. Yeah, so, like, I know I've heard of surveys that have gone out to people at their workplace, asking them about, like, LGBT questions and stuff, like very uncomfortable, like, are you LGBT, and if not, are you an ally? Like, do you support, like, really personal stuff? And it's like, that's kind of shady, like, and they always like to pretend that those things are 100% anonymous, which is never true. Like, tell me, they have no idea, who's filling out what. Like, come on. But just weird, shady stuff like that. But yeah, I was gonna say, like, about 5 years ago, I started to get more vocal. I just kind of started to see, I guess, things were getting politically heated for whatever reason. I guess maybe that's when, like, the next election was coming up, so everyone was starting to get political. And before then, I didn't care about politics. Like, I never really gave much thought to it. And I've actually heard this story I'm going to tell. I've heard many people since tell me the same thing about themselves. Once social media really, really went from just fun, here's what I'm eating at McDonald's, and here's the vacation I just went on, and cat videos, and now it's become this almost exclusively political battleground. Like, there's still a small niche of people who post things that no one really cares about, but we all pretend to. like, that's why I don't post a lot of stuff like that. Like, 99% of my posts involve this kind of stuff, like faith or politics. I don't think people care that I took a hike today. Like, I know you do, kid. You're an exception. You used to like my hiking pictures. But you're the minority.
When you're like, you found like some tent of trees and whatnot.
Yeah.
Put that there, and I'm like, I'm going to give a scientific answer. And I got added Batman crowd, because we love Batman.
Yeah. Right. Yes. We're about to rewatch the Dark Knight trilogy because we love Batman so much. Yeah. I just got the remastered version of Batman Begins. That's like, I don't have a 4K set up yet. I'm not rich. So to go off on that really quick, I don't collect 4K. I'm still a physical media enthusiast. I think Blu-ray is the best way to experience, any movie. Yes. It is. But a lot of times, like the Lord of the Rings movies and The Hobbit, they just got remastered like from the ground up. So that set has come out in 4K, but it's coming out next year as a complete set, and you can get the 1080p discs, which is what I'm going to get because I'm not upgrading everything to 4K. That's ridiculous. Like, you can't just buy a TV. You can't just buy a player. You got to get the receiver. You got to get all the cables. You're talking thousands and thousands of dollars that I don't feel like spending and don't have, quite frankly. But anyway, so yeah, 5 years ago, see, this is how it goes. I'm a tree, and then I have these little branches that sprout off, and then those branches sprout off, and then I have to bring it all back to the trunk. So that's kind of how my mind works. So apologies if that's driving anybody nuts. Maybe the vaccine will cure me. Maybe it'll inadvertently fix that. If it's not some RFID chip that they put into my bloodstream, right? Oh, now, conspiracy.
I'm not anti-vaccination. I'm not that, but I'm
not either.
Get vaccinated. I don't get vaccinated. Yeah. I almost kind of want to get COVID. Because if I had it back in like February, there was like 2 days where I just felt like death.
Maybe you did.
And
yeah.
It felt like after a long night of drinking, and I didn't drink. So, and I just felt like death for 2 days, but then it kind of got out of it and went on. So really, if I did get it then, I kind of like it now so my body can build up immunities.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty healthy, a little bit, Dad. I try not to say dad bod. I like to say father figure.
Father figure. I like that. I like that. I can't use it, but I like that. But no, like 2015, 2016, I started to be more vocal, and it's amazing, man, how, and I don't really put a whole lot into my friends list because let's be honest, most of us, like I have over 1,000 friends on here, but let's be honest, like I don't know most of them like very personally. I might have met one of them or most of them once and said, hey, I should add you on Facebook, never to be seen again. But yeah, like I could count, I might have 3 friends in this world counting my wife. So I have 2 other people in this world that I can 100%, 99% count on, like as friends that might help me move. But of course they both now live thousands of miles away. So I probably have no one, but I'm okay with that because I think most people are like that.
I'm not too far.
That's true. You're only 15 minutes away, I found out. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Be like an hour and a half though.
Yeah. But yeah, so I started being vocal, and then I found out, like, honestly, who my true friends were. Like, literally just giving my own opinions on things. It was amazing how, like, much pushback I got at first. Like, and it was really personal stuff. Like, people, and I'm not sitting here bawling. I'm not offended. It's very hard to offend me at this point. I've grown pretty jaded, and I think a lot of us have over the past few years. But at that point, it was offensive. And I'll be honest, I was a little, snowflake who I didn't want to offend anybody. But I also didn't want to feel like I couldn't have a voice because I was so afraid to offend. So nobody likes to lose friends, obviously. We're social creatures. But I was that person who I'm like, man, I've built all these relationships over the years in school, and now all of a sudden I'm being who I really am. I just was silent before. Now I'm actually being vocal, and it's incredible how many people were like, screw you, and that's the nice way of putting it. You don't think like me? Oh, well, I'm blocking you. Yeah, I'm blocking you, or I'm unfriending you, or I'm going to get in your comment section and try to rip you a new one all the time. And I also have OCD, if you can't tell. So I and you know this, Kip, firsthand. You got to give me some credit here, even though we have our disagreements. Do you think I'm responsive? When you comment, do you expect a response? Okay. I kind of
response, not really.
Oh, okay.
I don't expect it just because I have I think I might have a different level of expectations from people just because of the years I've been jaded. And had to rely on myself, for just for years, just me and the kids.
Right.
So I don't expect, too much, but no, you are very responsive to me. We talk a lot, and I'm sure, just as you said, there's times like, damn it, Kip. There's times when I've gone out in the back deck, smoking my cigarette, pacing, and Colleen's like, it's Dallas again, isn't it?
Are you serious? I didn't know that.
And I'm so engaged because I like how we do have some big differences, but we can still communicate. We can still
That's what makes us human.
Share ideas and whatnot.
Dude, let's think about this.
Hurt you.
No. And hopefully you've never gotten that from me. Hopefully you've never thought that I'm trying to change you and make you a different person than you are. Obviously, let's be honest though. Obviously, we would both like it if the other person started agreeing with us more, right? I mean, that's just how human nature works. We want everyone to agree with us. That's how it works. But we have to realize that's not how the world works. You're never, but let's get really close. Think about the person you're closest to in this world. Do you 100% agree on everything with that person?
No.
Exactly. It's like, so if we look at it that way, it's impossible to 100% agree with even the people that we love the most, let alone people that we don't even see that often, and from behind a keyboard. Like, I've actually kind of gotten to the point where, and this is where the story was going. I promise it's going, there's always a punchline of some type. I noticed that my friends list was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. There was a lot of people who were just done. They were just like, oh, Dallas thinks that way, I'm out. And that's fine. Like, they can do that. I actually don't do that very often. I use the unfollow button if I get pissed off too often. Unfollow is great. It's kind of like shadow banning, which I'm against shadow banning when it comes to like comment sections. I think you should be told when you're banned. But unfollowing is not really the same thing. It's kind of the closest thing that we. Yeah, it's just, what? I don't like your content. I'm not going to follow it anymore. I don't want to see it anymore, so I unfollow. That way, there's not that animosity of, oh, this person unfriended me or this person blocked me. And like, if I haven't unfollowed you, Kip, but if I would see you in person, even if I unfollowed you,
unfollowed me. Are you sure? Because
I don't think I have.
Because I know I put on because you even know my stance. I am huge against the church, and I know I will put some really fucked up shit on there. I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
Maybe I did. Maybe I did unfollow you. I don't know. I can't remember, honestly.
And I don't blame you for unfollowing me. That's fine.
I don't remember. I'll have to look later and find out.
Communicate and talk, and we still we still go do with your thing, because honestly,
But if you
I think there's a time or two I used you before just because it was like you were just like in like, I guess, not gladiator mode. What were they?
The gloves were off.
Praise the sun, more night mode, and you were just going after liberals left and right. And it's just like, okay, now I'm just getting bored with it, dude. Come on, man. I love you. We're still friends. I'll be back.
Yeah. Right. I wouldn't be offended if you told me you unfollowed me. Like, I think I understand why people do it. And hey, really quick, did I lose audio?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. It looked like for a second your mouths were moving, but nothing was happening. Right there, it actually did. When Chuck said something, I didn't hear that. I saw it. Yeah. That's weird. Maybe that was on purpose. No. But no, I found out, over the years, I lost a bunch of friends, and I say lost loosely, obviously, but it's weird. I actually had some people come back, like actually someone from YTI. Do you remember Zach McCune? Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah.
Okay. Me and him are probably, at that point anyway, complete opposite ends.
You grew up together. You guys were pretty close.
Yeah. Well, no, we met at YTI, but
okay.
We formed kind of a friendship there, but after YTI, after the graduations, he started to see my posts, and then it was kind of like he was in my comments a lot, and eventually he just unfriended me. But he came back, actually, so like, doubt he's watching, but he actually came back and re-added me and said that he's changed over the years, and he's basically admitted he's become more tolerant, So I'm like, that's awesome, and we reconnected, and that's how it should be. That's rare, but when it happens, it's awesome. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. That's where you and I can agree the most is we need to be able to have those nuanced discussions, and we shouldn't run the other way when we see something we disagree with, because nobody grows that way. You can't learn if you never see the other opinion. You can't learn. I personally, the reason I like to see the other opinion is so I know how to sharpen my own arguments, because if I don't know what I'm arguing against, I'm not going to be able to come up with any good arguments, and maybe my mind will change. Like I like to say I am open-minded enough to have my mind changed. If there's a shirt with the whole Me Too movement, when that came out, there was a shirt that I wanted to get. It said, "I believe men, women, and then facts and evidence." There were 3 check boxes. Facts and evidence was checked. And I like that shirt a lot. In that context, that's, I guess, the whole cancel culture thing. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't wish anybody get falsely accused of something, especially something as life-altering as a sexual allegation. That's just not fair to anybody.
Well, that's
and I just can't
accuse them and they didn't do it. I mean,
yeah, and that was seriously the Ricky Lake show growing up.
Yeah, I mean, it's innocent until proven guilty. That's the way it works, and everybody I think agrees with that, whether they say they don't or not. Nobody would want to be the recipient of a false allegation, especially one where you can lose your livelihood because of it. You can lose your job, So I think everyone actually agrees with innocent until proven guilty, at least personally. Whether they extend it to other people, that's the true question. But personally, nobody wants to be, taken to court and stuff knowing that they didn't do something. That's just, again, that's human nature. That's not how it works. We usually don't. Go ahead.
I think people generally go off of just immediate reaction.
Knee-jerk reaction. Yeah.
That's why there's that like button right there, and with all the different faces and whatnot. And
I'll be honest. Yeah.
So it's that initial reaction, and there is nature in that, but sometimes you need to take a step back, because somebody could bring up something that it's emotionally tied to you. You could almost have a very low level of PTSD towards something, So the first thing that's going to come out, and just like how you've had any arguments with a wife or whatnot, you'll just blah, and then it's like, crap, I shouldn't have said that. When people can sit there and say, hey, I need to walk away from this for a moment, collect, and then come back, that's the best thing then, if you need to go away. But these just going straight off of emotions, I don't think you're doing your own self justice.
I'll be honest with you, and this might be a hot take or whatnot, but George Floyd, when that happened, I was hesitant to believe the entire story was wrapped up in that clip that we saw of the knee on the neck, and I can't breathe. I was like, that looks terrible, right? Everyone would agree with that. That looks terrible. That shouldn't be happening. What on earth is going on? However, my instant thought was, what led up to that? Now, some people might call that victim blaming, which I think that's a whole other stupid type of thing. I think that is a real thing, but I also think it's been so overly abused now that if you even ask questions, that's considered victim blaming, which I think that's stupid. You should be able to ask questions. My question about the whole George Floyd thing was, why? What? Hey, cameo. She doesn't want to be seen right now. She just woke up.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is live. Anyway, then you saw the knee-jerk reaction to that. Everybody got on social media, started posting about it. I think there was a lot of people that were well-intended, and they were saying what needed to be said. I think there was a lot of virtue signaling, a lot of people who don't really care, but it was the popular thing to do. So they put their little black square on Instagram for 24 hours, and then they went right back to their videos of them in their pool. But then when the footage came out, the what do you call that? Not the webcam footage. Help me out here.
Body
cam. Thank you. The body cam footage, that changed it for me. Like, and I still am not saying I 100% agree with the decisions that were made. However, that added context, I remember when that came out, nobody was talking about it, at least not on any of my feeds. And I was like, hang on a sec. That was like one of the biggest events to happen, the most divisive, controversial thing. Actually, it wasn't even divisive at first. Everybody was in unity, like that was wrong. And then it became politicized. And then it became this, if you don't 100% agree with, this narrative, you're a racist, and you should be called out. Like the whole BLM, there's the organization, and then there's the slogan. I think everyone agrees with the slogan, but every decent person agrees with the slogan, but the organization is different. There's a lot more to the organization than simply, oh, black people matter too. There's a lot more to it. If you get on their website and actually read their beliefs, it's not just this simple. Yeah, it's not just this simple, do you love black people or don't you? That's how they want to frame it. But when I saw that body cam footage and I saw that George was yelling, I can't breathe, long before they even touched his neck, before they even had hands on him, that kind of changes it. Again, I think that cop was still wrong with what he was doing. He shouldn't have been as aggressive. So I'm not saying he was faultless, but my whole thing behind it is we all just reacted, didn't see the whole story. And then when the story comes out, nobody wanted to own it and admit, wow, maybe we shouldn't have just jumped to conclusions before. Maybe we should just take a step back and look at a situation and say, why? Why did this happen? Because I honestly, even before that footage came out, I was talking to one of my left-leaning friends. We were in agreement. It was wrong. And then I started to say, hey, man, how do we know without a shadow of a doubt that this was an act of racism? What? Yeah. How do we know, though? Is it because everyone's saying it was? Do we actually know that the reason that guy, that cop, killed George was simply because he was a racist? Or if he would have done the same thing to a white guy or a Hispanic guy or whatever, the same situation, just changed the race, would he have done the same thing? But nobody would have talked about it, right? Nobody would have said, oh, yeah, that criminal probably deserved it, maybe. But because it was black, it was so easy to politicize that and say, clearly an act of racism. And my question was, how do we know that? Has it ever, and to this day, has it been proven that the reason that guy killed George was because he was just a racist and he just was looking for the next scenario where he could kill a black guy? That way he could mark that off on his bucket list. I got to kill a black guy on national television, and that's my good deed for my fellow racists. I just didn't believe it.
I don't think that the big issue was, Floyd's death was wrong. I don't think that it was.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it was racially motivated or not.
And that's the thing. Does anybody know that is my question.
In the timeline, as soon as I saw Freddie, as soon as I saw that, I thought of Freddie Gray in Baltimore. I thought about Michael Brown, and I'm like, there's a timeline of stuff, and this is fitting. It's the next event of this. So
it's more about like police brutality and stuff.
And I terribly feel bad because when it's the little kids looking up and getting scared that might be them one day, because the statistics are, yes, there's blacks are 13% of the American population.
Yeah.
But for each time that the math somehow works that for every one out of 3 blacks would get stopped, whereas whites 1 out of 5 would get shot. I forgot where the statistics.
Do you know the percentage, and I'm asking, do you know the percentage of black men that commit crimes in proportion to white men that commit crimes? I'm asking, I don't know.
They all probably commit the same crimes. It's just who gets prosecuted, and they're much harder on black people and minorities. And, if at least it used to be like, if you're a white dude, you get away scot-free. I mean, look at all the white-collar crime. I mean, nobody does any time. They're just bankers in their office, and they can steal money from your retirement plan and fuck you. They're not going to jail, you know?
Well, even with the police, how the police have the codes when they do, you know, over the radio. A number one male is a black male because that's what they'll mostly call for. And I believe that there has been a systemic racism because it was taught, you know, subsequently, you know, it was just part of that culture because even back when, as much as I love Charles Darwin, you know, for what he did, he would sit there back then and say, well, yeah, of course whites are superior. That's the superior race. Abraham Lincoln, you know, the one who's accredited as saving the freeing the slaves.
Yeah.
Him doing that, you know, he would sit there and still say, of course, white people are still more superior. You know, it's still the superior race.
I'm taking your word. I haven't heard that, but I'll take your word for it. I have to do my own research on that.
Talk to an electrician. And I was in the 9th grade. It was during the summer. I went and I worked for an electrical company as an apprenticeship, you know, because I wanted to learn the circuitry because I had the computer part at home. I wanted to learn how electricity worked. And so you have 3 wires in the house. You have white, black, and ground. So ground's generally green or uncoppered. And so you'll have a hot and neutral. And the way that I was told, you know, how to remember which one's hot and which one's neutral out of the black and white is, remember, there's since it's positive and neutral, remember, nothing positive comes from being black. So you know black's neutrals. And this was told to me by a black Jamaican guy that worked there.
Ironic.
And ironically, years later, me, you know, helping out another older white gentleman on a side job, him doing electrical, he's really like, remember, there's nothing positive about being black. And it's like, this is like fed through, you know, this is just like, it's kind of, I feel that it has like creeped up on us like white suburbanites, you know, it has like creeped in there without us even knowing it. And I do believe that that's why I say everybody is a little bit racist. As long as you're not committing hate crimes or harming each other over it.
That's why the virtue signaling gets on my nerves, because there are, like you said, no one is free of prejudice. It's just the way we are. You know, it's just how prejudiced are you and how vocal about it are you? You know, like everyone looks, and that's not just other colors, even like amongst white people, you know, you might see someone who isn't wearing name brand clothing and, you know, you might look down, oh, they must not make a lot of money. I mean, that happens a lot in school. You know, like if you weren't the kid that had the popular sneakers, you know, or the name brand, if you were wearing Walmart shoes, people might have made fun of you, you know? So it's like right there's prejudice. It's not like there's this weird thing where they think that all white people sit around singing Kumbaya because we're all white and then all black people and all, you know, no, there's disagreements among them. My sister-in-law was actually dating a man of mixed race. You know, he had a white parent and a black parent. And I remember the first time she showed me on her phone, she goes, hey, you know, this is the guy I'm dating. Her black friend was standing there. And I looked at the picture and he looked at the picture and he went like this, mutt. And I was like, what? He was calling the guy on the phone a mutt because he's mixed. He's not pure. He's not a pure breed. Yeah.
I've heard that.
Now,
and I think that's messed up.
It is messed up. Now, do you think people would be harsher on me if I would have said that in front of the black guy? If I would have, right? Because think about it, though. That guy's mixed. He's white and black. The black guy says a racist, you know, term, and we're all just supposed to kind of nervously giggle, like, that was probably racist, you know. But if I would have said, they'd be like, what? HR? We have a racist here. That's the kind of stuff that, like,
it's definitely like a double standard, like you're saying. But
it's a double standard.
I mean,
we've gotten shitting on for a couple of 100 years, so you got to give them some time to catch up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will say this though: nobody alive today in the United States either owned slaves or was a slave. So yes, while we acknowledge those things happened, and I can speak for people that aren't white that have said they don't think reparations should be a thing, because that's actually an insult to the people who lived through real racism.
Yeah.
And now you want money because of what they went through? They don't get anything. Those people died on their plantations. Horrible for them. Would you think they would be glad that you hundreds of years later, you're somehow benefiting from what they went through? I just don't think that's fair at all. I think that's the opposite. I think it's pretty offensive, actually. But they somehow justify it. And I say they, like the far left, would justify that and say, oh, no, every black person today deserves reparations. Like, no matter what their class is, how much they're making. And, you can agree or disagree with that. I personally just think that that's ridiculous. I think we could go then back in history. Every race at some point has had some sort of oppression in their race. So does everybody deserve reparations? And then we can get personal. Well, all rape victims deserve this, or anyone who's had a family member die deserves this. I'm sorry, I guess I'm of the mindset where no one is owed anything. No one's that's the conservative in me coming out, I guess. We're supposed to, like when we should have all free everything. Like I was taught in school, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Like hand-me-outs might sound nice on paper, but at the end, they actually hurt the majority. They might benefit certain people, but the working class, we're getting screwed in certain ways. Where, would you love to just sit at home and do nothing and get paid all day? I mean, I think everybody would.
I think
wouldn't that be cool?
From being part of the system, I think this system is entirely screwed up, because I was
it's not fair.
Single father of 2 kids. Custody. So I did do the food stamps for a good bit, and the system's meant for, once you're in it, you're stuck in it. It doesn't help.
I think it should help you get to a point where you can be self-sufficient. It's kind of like, give a man a fish, he eats a day. Teach him how to fish, he doesn't need you anymore to help him. That's, I think, how it should be. But instead, it's more like, here, keep sucking on our nipple forever. I don't think that's how it should be.
There's up to a line where, I'd maybe make an extra $50 a week. So they take away an extra $300 out of food stamps.
Ooh.
So
they punish you for trying to raise yourself out of it. So
trying to get ahead was harder. And there was times when it really sucked at work, where at that time, the one boss I had, she hated her life. She wanted to retire, but she couldn't because of her own financial reasons. And she just hated everything. And she always, people that are upset with themselves, that they'll spread that. And so she kept on bitching at me something that day. And it was over something stupid too. And I'm like, you do realize I can make more money sitting at home playing video games all day. I'm here because I'm trying at this. I'm trying to do my best. And
it's good.
To get success, I have to have failure. There's going to be little hiccups and shit. I mean,
there has to be an incentive, right, to better yourself. If there's no incentive, what's the point?
Correct.
If everyone made like I know there's people that I know that think that we should all get paid no matter what. Like, once you reach adulthood, everyone should make a livable wage.
Oh, the universal.
Hey, that sounds universal. That sounds. I want that to work so much. That sounds incredible, But as a realist, I don't think it's possible. I think it would be a disaster. I think it would actually destroy our economy. It would destroy people's incentive to better themselves. Because if I can make a living by not working and just getting the hand-me-outs, how many people are going to want to do anything else? Like, how many people are actually going to want to go to school and try to make more? If you can make enough just doing nothing and letting the government pay for everything, if that's the goal, how many people do you really think are going to want to spend extra money? Like, I think most of us are probably lazy, at the end of the day. We don't want to have to do anything. We just want to sit home and do nothing.
You have to. Because I technically had the ability to where it was just making it. It was just making it. But I knew with my kids that I didn't want them to live that way. So I was not going to teach them that way. I was going to teach them that you are going to have to go through hard times. You're going to have to bear it down, knock it down. But as long as you keep moving, you'll get there. You'll get where you want.
We live in a cruel, mean world. So
dog eat dog world.
It is. And as much, trust me though, I get it. I get the utopian mindset. Like, I think everybody wants that, but there's also reality. We have to accept the cards we're given. You can't just pretend that things aren't the way they are. Like, oh, well, I want it to be this way, so I'm just going to keep thinking it is when it's not. That's not a healthy way to live. That's being, oblivious to the reality of what's going on. So while it's good to have goals and it's good to say, I want to be here someday. I want to live in this type of house someday. You also have to look at, okay, well, what's in front of me right now? What do I have? What do I need to do to get to that point? Yeah. Instead of, hey, where's the hand-me-out that'll get me there? Like, no, that's not how it works. You have to do the heavy lifting.
I don't think a lot of people are looking for hand-me-outs. I think a lot of people were dealt the wrong cards. And like what you'll see because I lived in the
I think it's both.
I lived in the inner cities. And yeah, you will have like those career errors. I was raised by just my mom. I'd go out from the doorstep of the apartment. I'd play with live ammunition that I'd find there.
Oh gosh. So,
watching some of these people, there are those career welfarers, which, they just keep popping out a baby. And as they are taught when they're 18, the child is 18, get that out of the house. And because of poor opportunities, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but because of poor opportunities, you generally, like the Elvis song, The Ghetto, there's a lot of hate, anger. Fathers are taken away from the houses, as in, drugs. So many, even pot charges. You've seen our American prison system is filled. And a lot of that prison system is a private freaking company. And you'll see it from like pot charges and stuff where like, honestly, like you or I, we could possibly get away with it with a little baggie, where generally if you're black, you couldn't. And so you had the males that were out of the houses, because they're either locked up, or you have some that are just like everybody, pieces of shit, that they gone away. My father was absent from my life for a decade and a half. And with that gone from the home, I'm not trying to sound sexist or anything of that nature. But with the man like me, I have drive. I want to build, do better, teach the kids, have them have a good foundation to have them even be better than me. I want them to do better than me. I want them to succeed. I want them to have the appreciation of themselves for being able to conquer these challenges, these hard times. And, in the inner cities, they don't have that. And there's just this weird rotating cycle. We even saw it back when the CIA threw cocaine in the inner cities. That really helped take the fathers out of there. Right. I mean, black people were striving a lot. In the 40s, 50s, 60s, around that time, black family households were great until the fathers were taken out of it. And it's sad to me. But I didn't mean to go tangent. I've seen so much heartache and so much set to failure, because there are some government things that do help people, but it's a game, it's a system, it's a very strategical system that has been well thought out, well planned, and is set in a way to where it keeps you where they want to keep you. And now as I believe, seeing this all over social media with this bipolarization, and as long as we're divided, we're not going to overtake the government. If we all got together, if we all had unity, And we tell these totalitarians, these authoritarians that do it using psyops through your, we recommend you watching this video. If we push back, then yeah, it'd be back to we the people. But
did you ever wonder, like places like North Korea, why they haven't done that yet?
Well, because they believe Kim Jong-un is God.
Yeah,
that is God at the physical level. They say when Kim Jong-un was born, all the birds in the trees sung the Korean national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
Korean. His father's ghost ran the freaking country before, 5-6 years after he died. And they teach, they control information. And I don't know if you like podcasts, so I don't know if you ever listened to Darknet Diaries. There's one where there's Korean refugees and they send USBs with information, as in just movies, because it's not allowed. I mean, they are stricter than Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. They have meetings every Wednesday of how much they love their supreme leader and how best they can serve the supreme leader. While they're not allowed to have outside internet, their entire internet system is set up off of a Linux piece of shit distro.
It's like 5 websites.
And that's.
I always tell people that complain about America like they hate this country, they want to leave. I say, get on Wiki Travel sometime and just look up either Saudi Arabia or North Korea and just read a couple paragraphs and you'll be glad you live in America. Like we've got our problems, but man, compared to that, like we are free as a bird over here. It's crazy.
I think America is a big dysfunctional family. I do believe that there's
melting
love
pot
on some level, even though there might be that one cousin who was a dipshit that one time, so you don't really want to talk to him, but you'll sit there around during the Christmas picture and whatnot and take a picture in there. But it's I think what people
I'm glad I live here. I don't want to leave.
America. I absolutely
even if Joe Biden would win, I'd still glad to live here. Still better than Kim Jong.
Better than Russia. Yeah. You can't even, as much as I joke, and I used to throw up so many against like Trump, because I've done that with all presidents. I'm like Saturday Night Live. I'll make fun of every single president.
At least you're consistent.
Make fun of Biden. And if you don't like it, then just unfollow me and then bye. Then
I actually feel bad for the guy at this point. I don't really even make fun of him anymore. I'm just like, man, that guy needs to be in a nursing home. Like, it's not good. It's really not good.
Puppet. I personally think he's a puppet.
Absolutely.
Kamala Harris can go take over, and I've been starting to do bets with friends. I'm like, do you give it 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years?
For who, Biden?
Not in office yet.
Yeah, did you see that picture of him putting all his weight on his broken foot?
I saw him walking with the foot. I don't know I don't know how well that's done.
Yeah. I mean, the excuses that they come up with, like it's just a stutter and stuff. I'm like, guys, come on. Anybody who's ever lived with a member of your family who has signs of dementia could look at that guy and say something going on mentally with that dude. It's not just stuttering. Like there's clearly a mental, like when he said, like I watched one time where he said, as a kitchen table, I learned, like, wait, pause that. What'd you just say? As a kitchen table, you learned? I think what he meant to say when I was at the kitchen table, that's not a stutter. That's like leaving words out of sentences. And it's just like, that's going to be the leader of the free world.
We've had Trump for 4 years, so we're kind of like ready for that, like Thailand. So
to go off on my Trump tangent, I'm not like a MAGA hat wearing Trump worshiper, like I might be stereotyped to be. I just think that he's what we needed. I think that like the whole drain the swamp thing, we needed a wild card. I think things were just a status quo that needed to be shaken up. And if anything, 2020 especially, I actually, in a way, I kind of like the division. I know it sounds weird. I like to know what people believe. And this year especially has exposed pretty much everybody. Like whatever side you're on, you're being vocal. Where before it was kind of this hush hush, we don't talk politics. I don't tell you who I vote for. You don't tell me who you vote for. Now it's like this total like split down the middle, and you almost wonder in public, I wonder if they're left or if they're right or if they're middle. Like you almost can't help but notice and wonder these things. We've become so politicized now, but I kind of like that because I think it's a shakeup. Every country needs a shakeup every once in a while, and I think that whether you love him or you hate him, he's definitely shook up the country in the past 40 years. So.
Oh yeah, he's caused a lot of stuff. I think he's done a few good things and a lot really fucked up. And I'll say that against any president. I'll say that against Obama, and I voted for Obama both times. I voted for Trump this last time because I just hate the the Clinton Foundation. Hillary. Oh look, fuck! I'm starting like Biden. Damn it! But even this year, I went Joe Jordan. I didn't.
Oh, everybody. But I mean.
We got 2% now. We got 2% now. Okay, we went from 1% to 2%. We're making strides.
Yeah.
Next year, I'm so wearing a Kanye West shirt when I go to vote. I'm not going to vote.
That could be really interesting.
I'm just going to wear the shirt, especially because this is Pennsylvania. This is, especially the rural areas, really red. One thing you did see with this election, though, is looking at the map. It was really like, it was the cities versus the country, the counties or whatnot. You definitely saw it was like urban versus street.
Yeah.
And honestly, I know that we kind of have to have a divide, but it sickens me inside to be part of that divide. That's why I can't. I
almost feel like you can't help it now. Like if you have a political position, you're part of the divide. Like by default. That means you don't agree with the other side, so therefore, you're on one side, they're on another. It's like I said, it's impossible to be in the middle. Like you can't 100% be in the middle. Everyone takes sides in some aspect.
100% be in the middle, but you can bounce back and forth.
Yeah, I think everyone leans though a certain way. Even if you are in the middle, you might be socially liberal and fiscally conservative, or vice versa. You're going to lean certain directions. So like no one's this like blank slate neutral. I don't care about anything. Like everyone has opinions.
Maybe
we should encourage that.
Neutral. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. I guess I should say that no one's non-binary. No one's politically non-binary. Wouldn't that be funny if people started saying that, like I'm politically non-binary. I'm not left or right. I'm me. Like, what is you? No, I kind of like, like that. That's a good thing. Like you don't want to say you're 100% either or, because that never comes across right. When you say, oh, I'm 100% left or I'm 100% right, that makes people think that you're like basically brainwashed and that you can't think for yourself.
Well, it's like I hate Nancy Pelosi and I hate Mitch McConnell. I think Ted Cruz is a dumbass and we need to take filibustering out.
Hey, Ted Cruz roasted social media pretty good recently. I thought he asked some pretty good questions when he had Zuckerberg on there. I don't know if you watched any of that. Putting him on the hot seat, basically. I thought it was pretty well done. I'm not saying I'm a big Cruz fan, but.
Well, remember, Ted Cruz in his state, he wasn't going to get anything. He didn't have many votes. Well, not many supporters when he was starting to get in. And then so he was one of the first ones for Cambridge Analytica to help push out to the people through Facebook, the ones who were on the fence, and start to do certain content and certain ads targeting those people to help push him that way. And then he fucking won like a landslide.
Yeah.
Because everybody's then perception then was changed. And now your perception, it's not like we're all watching the regular TV. Like when we were growing up, when it was Saturday morning and we flipped on like Fox for the cartoons, like the X-Men or whatnot, or Spider-Man, we all saw the same episode. Now, different devices with different IP addresses, we're getting different content. We're getting content sent to us by people who are paying for it, for us to watch, consume, and then for us to react. And I think that's a big part of the control. That's why I think we are as a people, I think we should take our data seriously, what information we have and what we do in that. And we helped see that because of the election. We had some of the biggest 2016 election, biggest flip arounds ever. I didn't even think Trump would get it. I thought Hillary's going to freaking get it because that's just kind of like been rolling. And then I'm like, holy shit, that huge flip around. And then even this time, I was like, Trump's more likely going to get it. How can all these televangelists be wrong? And then Biden got it. I'm like, holy shit, really? I mean, I think that was a testament of there was so much hate towards Hillary. So of course, I voted for Trump because I hated Hillary, because I hate the Clintons. But I was even registered Democrat because I voted for Trump the past 2 times. But,
and, hey, that's awesome. I think that's different than a lot of people would never, no matter who it is, they would never vote the other side, because I'm the type of person, I honestly sides, if I agree 100% with the next, left-leaning person that came in, if I agree with all their policies and I completely disagree with the guy on the right, I would switch. I mean, it's about policy. Like, to me, it's about policy. So, if I take an issue for me, not to go off on that tangent, but
good.
I'm very pro-life, right? So if a very pro-choice Republican got in and a very pro-life Democrat ran, I'd probably vote for the Democrat, or I just wouldn't vote. But if I agree with the Democrat more, I would say, well, that's an issue that's really important to me. So, okay, I'll switch sides this time, And I think that's good for people to be open to that kind of stuff. I know someone who I talk to a lot now, a childhood friend, he always says he's politically homeless because he's so tired. He was on the left, and he's so tired of the cancel culture and also the groupthink and the hive mind. And he would just try to ask questions, and just asking questions would get him in trouble or shunned, or people didn't want to talk to him, or they said, how dare you question the narrative? You're supposed to believe what you're told. I'm like, remember when it used to be popular or it was edgy or cool to not or to question everything, to say, I don't trust the government. Oh yeah, we're rebels. Now it seems the opposite. It's like we're just supposed to believe everything we're told, and that's the cool thing to do. All the cool kids believe what they're told, because science and stuff like that. Let's make fun of something really quick. I'm going to anyway. Have you ever seen those yard signs that say it's like the liberal 10 Commandments almost? It's like, I believe this and we believe this, and we believe Black Lives Matter and we believe in science. And I always go down and read it, and in my head I refute each one of them. Well, my favorite one is that we believe in science. I'm thinking what does that even mean exactly? How would you define that? Everyone to an extent believes in science. You have to. You can't live your life if you don't believe in science. If you denied the laws of physics, a lot more people would be dead because they didn't think they could fly. So, of course, everyone believes in science.
I think the science, that's mostly, fighting back against the theist, because we've had, there's so many, and you've seen in the Bible Belt states, them pushing God into school, and then the prayer and such. They have a huge standing with the anti-abortion, pro-life, way, and you've seen. So, of course, science, on the other hand, that's kind of like that.
That was intentional, Kip. I know what you were doing there. I'm just kidding. Anti-abortion. I mean pro-life.
I was trying to be politically
You thought I wouldn't notice.
A little bit. Trying to be politically correct.
Yeah.
Honestly,
you don't have to be politically correct here, man. You're not going to offend me.
I mean, like me, I think abortion is wrong, but I don't think I have the right to tell you what can and can't be done to your body. That's, I guess, as just the libertarian side of it. I think it's wrong. I haven't done it. Yeah. My mother tried to get me to do that with my daughter, and I said no. I stepped up and I took care of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I have the right to tell anybody else what to do. That's why I generally kind of like swing away from it, but the ones that do pro-life, I'm like, okay, I think we need to do some more steps before you could get to that. Like, what about like the influx of the foster care? The foster care system's fucked up.
It is. It absolutely is.
640,000 kids a year. Those kids don't have homes. That's where I was like, gay marriage. I'm like, great, they can get married, and if they want kids, there's a boatload of kids. I'm worried about kids that go to bed upset not having a family there, or the career, welfares. That'll help put a stop to those kids just keep on coming out. I don't know. I don't think it's a simple subject. And it can vary out, just like I said, the treaties before. I think it's a much more in depth and something that would need to be looked at. Better.
Here's something I usually ask. I'm not trying to get into a debate, but here's something I usually pose when people say, kind of like what you're saying, and I appreciate that more nuanced way of putting it. Instead of saying, "Oh, I'm this, you're that," like it's more, I think a lot of people, a lot of people turn it. I think a lot of people argue it the wrong way. They turn it into a preference, like it's I like blue, you like pink. I wouldn't get an abortion, but if you want to, hey, you do you, man. Like I don't like peas, you do. If you want to eat them, go ahead. Where I think we're talking about something very serious here. We're not talking about simply preferences like pink and blue, salty or sweet. We're talking about human life.
Yeah.
And if everyone believes that murder is wrong, I don't care who you are, everybody believes that nobody wants to be murdered, so everybody believes murder is wrong, generally speaking anyway. There's always those weird people, but everybody believes that murder is wrong. So my point is this. And this is kind of you've heard me say this before, but I'll just for anyone watching. The reason I'm pro-life, and I get all the pro-choice arguments, I actually get them, I understand them, they make sense to me, 100%. If it's not a human being that we're talking about, I get it. But because I believe in the science of embryology, and I believe that the science is settled, that human life begins at fertilization, which I do believe. I don't think that's been refuted. I don't think it can be. I think it is settled as physics exist. Yes, okay. Human life, some people get smart with me and say, well, human life actually began, millions or billions of years ago. I didn't say, when did human life begin? I said, when does human life begin? So they always try to get me with that. And I'm like, no, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, you can disagree with that. I will tell you. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's been like my question, because wouldn't like sperm be alive?
It's alive. The egg's alive. Everything's alive.
It's alive.
Right. Living. So living things like.
Alive.
Yeah. So I mean,
like is a finger a human being, or is it part of a human being? You know what I mean? Like if I cut my finger off, is that a human being laying on the table, or is that my finger laying on the table that was part of a full?
Meant to have the finger lay off the table, but it is meant to ejaculate. And isn't those sperm? Then maybe that's why the Catholics did for so long. You're going to go to hell.
Right. So the question becomes, it always boils down to this. Before we can talk about any other issues about choice or about foster care, there's fundamental questions that have to be addressed. Otherwise, there's no debate that can be had. And I always tell people, you have to answer two questions for yourself. When does human life begin? And when do human rights begin? Because this is it's a twofold question, or the issue, I should say, is two-part. It's not simply a scientific issue. It's also a philosophical issue. Human life is the science part. That's the hard science. Human rights, that's philosophical. Science has nothing to say about human rights. Human rights is an intangible idea, right? It's not hard science, because it's something it's like a concept that we come up with. Like murder doesn't exist in science. Science tells us the what. So murder is an action, an immoral action. Science doesn't tell us anything about morality. Otherwise, watching a wildebeest give birth and then a bunch of hyenas come and tear the child out of the womb and just devour it in front of the mother, science has nothing to say about that being right or wrong. Now, us humans would watch that and feel uncomfortable. We would say, yeah, that seems wrong. Oh, but it's animals, it's nature. So that's what I always tell people. I always say, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to debate. It's a very hot button issue. But I try to make them think about those things. Just think for a second about those two questions. What's your stance on that? When do you think human life begins? And if you don't know, that's fair. You can say you don't know. However, since we're talking about possibly, if it is a human life, then I would say it's murder, right? If you see somebody on the road, like if you're driving, here's the analogy I make. If you're driving on a dark, rainy night, on a windy road on a mountain, and you think you see somebody standing in the middle of the road about 30 feet ahead, but you can't tell, but you're not sure, do you just keep going and take that chance, possibly killing somebody, or do you slow down, maybe pull over and find out? Look at the facts and evidence, make sure, don't make any assumptions. I think most people would pull over. So that's my whole thing. When people say, you know what, I don't know, well, then maybe you shouldn't take a stance. Maybe you should take a step back and say, you know what? It might be murder. It might not be murder. And here's the thing. I always tell people this. If you can prove to me that abortion's not murder, I believe it is for the reasons I've laid out. Human life begins at fertilization, and I believe that human rights also begin at fertilization, because when a new human being begins to exist, their rights are magically bestowed upon them. We'll just put it that way. Otherwise, if they're not at fertilization, there has to be a certain point when those rights begin to exist. When does the right to life begin to exist? Right? Because again, science doesn't tell us this. Science doesn't care. You could kill a newborn and science isn't going to say anything. It's just going to tell you what you did. It's not going to say if it was right or wrong. The human rights aspect, though, we have to be able to answer that question. So post-birth, I would say 99% of the population, even on the pro-choice side, is against post-birth abortion, right? Because they would say, oh, no, that's killing, so that's murder. However, those same people might be for partial birth abortion, and they'll say, you know what, though? 1 second before that child came out of the womb, that would have been okay. That's that mother's choice. Now, a lot of people don't believe that, but there are people that think that that's fine. I used to talk to someone like that. They said that abortion from day one to right before the child comes out, okay, woman's choice is choice. That was always her way of saying it. Choice is choice. And I'll say, okay, at least you're consistent, though. I appreciate your consistency. I disagree, but I appreciate that. I would ask her those questions. When does human life begin? I would go through my notes and my facts and evidence that I've compiled from sources that I've listened to that I believe the science is settled. And I would say, she wouldn't challenge it. She would say, okay, you know what? Fine, I'll give you that. Human life begins at fertilization. And then she would say this, I don't care. Choice is choice. And I would say, okay. Hey, I appreciate the honesty, though. Like, I actually like having someone that's not trying to have their cake and eat it too all the time, And I always say this. I actually start every debate that I have on this issue. I always say this. I would be absolutely pro-choice, 100% pro-choice, because I get the arguments. I really do. They make sense. From a practical standpoint, they make a lot of sense. I would be pro-choice if I didn't believe that human life began at fertilization, because if it does, I have to be consistent with my own logic, and I have to say, hey, I'm against murder post-birth. Well, then if a human life begins before they're born, at what point is it? And that's when the line has to be drawn. So somewhere that line has to be drawn for everybody. Mine happens to be at fertilization because that's when I believe it begins. Now, if somebody could prove to me, hey, Dallas, you know what? You've got it all wrong. Human life begins at this specific stage. We figured it out, then I would say, okay, then I'm pro-choice and pro-life, which everybody is, by the way, to an extent. I am pro-choice up until this point, and then I'm pro-life the rest of the way on, and that's how most people are, whatever side they're on. I just heard a guy talking about killing homeless people. He thinks that it would be better for homeless people that are in the ditches and that can't get out. We should just off them. We should get them off our streets. He lives in L.A., and he was saying how there's this homeless problem in L.A., and there's all these homeless people. They're just leeching off the system. There's miserable existence. He thinks that euthanasia, I guess.
There's a shit map app for LA to warn you of the spots of where the homeless shit, and it piles up.
Jeez, that's messed up. But He thinks that it would be better for us to go and end their lives for them, and he justifies it as saying they would be better off that way.
It kind of comes into the
that's post-birth abortion.
That I think the question then goes into quality of life, because like if you go to a veterinarian, when they look at an animal, if after a dog, shall we say, is like 50 years old, what's their quality of life before we should put them down and take them out of their misery? Which, in the same way, if somebody, who would, and there's various reasons why people can have an abortion. There are some medical reasons. There's, it could be the woman or the baby that could,
or they just want to because inconvenience,
there's one too, because
which is the majority. It is. I mean, I'm not arguing. I'm just
around there.
I'm just saying, like, that is the majority. Oh, I got knocked up. I don't want a kid. I'm not ready for a kid. Abortion. Like, unfortunately, that's the truth. But hey, here's what I always tell pro-choice people. If it doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Who cares what the reason is? Choice is choice.
Okay.
Right?
Then we would say, since the majority of people that would have abortions, if we're saying that,
vast majority,
yes, vast majority of them is just because they don't want the kid for whatever reason. So then say abortion is outlawed. Then government takes out abortion.
Just like murder is outlawed, and it would just extend to the unborn.
Okay. Yeah. Then so what do we do with these access kids? Because then we'd have more kids going to adoption, right? Because these people were not going to take care of these kids. That's why they were going to have the abortion. You think they're all going to then just magically step up and take care of the kids? I see a huge influx. If they didn't want the kid, they're going to make sure after the kid's born, the kid's gone. So it's going to go to it's going to get sold. There's people that have been caught selling kids on eBay and shit and on the dark web. So then they sell the kids? What quality of life would they have then? That's why I'm like, I think we need to fix the foster care system and the quality of life of the kids that are living now before we can sit there and just ambush more onto it. I think we need to fix that problem first before we could solve, we have too much overflow. Before we have the big backlash of more flow, this needs to be fixed first. So that's honestly where I would start, because those kids are now that their parents are like, oh, I don't want an abortion, but I'm not going to keep the kid. Mm-hmm. I think that needs to be fixed first.
So it comes down to if, people, how much they value human life at that point, like, and where they get that value from. Where does that value come from? Because here's what I could say to that, and I get your arguments. Let's apply everything you just said to a mother who doesn't want her kid after birth. Let's just say a month into having her kid, she's like, you know what? I wasn't ready for this. Why shouldn't she be able to just kill it? Just, lethally inject it. No pains involved. Would that be immoral? And would most people say, yeah, you shouldn't do that? Most people probably would. The question then becomes why? Why shouldn't she kill that child? If she's looking into the future and guessing, this kid's not going to have a good quality of life. I'd rather not give him into an adoption, so I'm just going to kill him. Like,
I think the visual aspect. It's
like, would that be okay? Yeah, because I could see that being an issue. Yeah.
But the visual aspect, just like how you said earlier about like George Floyd, it's because we saw it. That's why there was the outrage. So because after a child's born, you have the family around. You can
see the child.
You can see it. So because you see it, then you believe okay, bam, now it
becomes more human, and which is incorrect, right? Like it was right before it came out, same level of a child till it came out.
It gets the more.
That's what they call it. My side calls it the magical birth canal. Not a baby through the magical birth canal. No, a baby. And that's what it boils down to for those
number. That's when it gets its citizenship. That's when all the rights. That's when you can file it on your taxes. You know.
Here's another double standard I've seen. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kip.
My kind of complaint for the stimulus check. I'm like, well, okay, Republicans are anti-abortion. Cool. Okay, that's their stance. Fine. Then why are they giving the stimulus checks an extra for the kid for the ones that are pregnant?
Can I say goodbye to you?
So
It's
almost like once the social security number happens, then it's like, okay, the government says you're real now. So
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hey, let me pause you really quick. My wife has to leave, so let me just. Is it okay if I pause really quick?
Yeah, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, we can edit this. We can edit this part out. Hang on.
You're good, brother. Oh shit.
Like 5:30ish. I'll text you.
So that's what was beeping.
It beeped because we're gonna have tape.
I'll make the reverse tonight, okay?
Sounds good.
La 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 la. We're trying to cover the sound for you, so then people don't.
All right, I'm back. No, but that was good. That was good. Good discussion there. There was a point that I wanted to make though, with the abortion thing. So, like I said, I know it's a really hot button issue. I know a lot of people get angry about it, but I feel like both sides, there's so much emotion involved that there's like no room for logic, and that's what gets on my nerves. Like I'm glad that with you guys, I assume you both probably disagree with me, but at least we're able to have a discussion. There's a lot of listening going on. There's not a lot of people getting angry and, emotional. All I look for in any debate is consistency. And I think most people do. Nobody likes hypocrisy. And when we see hypocrisy, we usually try to call it out, which is what politics is pretty much all about. So there's a lot of double standards out there. And what I've seen in researching the pro-life side, I've seen the double standard where people put animal lives above human lives. And meaning, if my dog gets knocked up, I've asked people this on the pro-choice side. I don't want puppies. I can't get rid of them. I don't know, can I get my dog an abortion? They always get really uncomfortable. They don't want to just say, yeah, choice is choice. Or they would say that you're not in charge of your dog's body. Well, then I can say, then, keeping your dog in captivity.
You talk to your dog about it? They're the one having the operation.
Right.
That's a good one, though.
But that's clever. At the same time, your dog is also being held maybe against its will in captivity. Like, shouldn't it be free to go roam, and then if it likes you enough, come back. If it loves you, it'll live with you. But if not, give it the option to go. Like, don't keep it against its own will.
Dogs were bred to be complacent. They were bred. Yeah. We as humans, turned wolves and bred them differently and made them dormant. Yeah. And that happy servant. I'm so happy you're home. I don't realize I'm stuck inside for 8 hours while you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't realize that I don't eat the same good food that you do or anything.
I guess my whole point with that topic specifically is if you don't know, you probably shouldn't have an opinion. You should probably say, you know what? I don't know. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, here's an issue I don't know a whole lot about. Climate change. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know everything about climate change. I don't know a whole lot about climate change. I really honestly haven't researched it a lot. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, we have no effect or we have a lot of effect. I'm not going to say either. I don't know. And I think it's better for me to just say I don't know. I don't have a good argument either way. Do I believe that humans have an effect on the environment? 100%. I think anybody would be an idiot to say otherwise. Do I think that the world's going to end in 12 years? I'm going to say no. If I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's going to end in 12 years. But, I'm not going to sit here also. I wouldn't be able to engage in like a big nuanced discussion about climate change because I just don't know enough about it. So I'm going to take the path of humility and say, I don't know. And you guys might be experts in climate change for all I know. I don't know that.
I've read some articles.
Yeah. It's just, I'll be honest, this might not sound good.
We've been harming the earth. I think where humans are getting it wrong, though, is, we could destroy the earth, but I think the earth will destroy us before we destroy it. Well, because, when you watch nature, like when you do, because I love watching planet, and a lot of these animals shot in 4K and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
You will see nature has a way of cycling itself. And
Yeah.
if something starts to get overpopulated, boom, that hits. People have attributed that to gods or whatnot, but I think whatever, even if this is a simulation and we're all in the matrix, there is a code or whatnot, and it just kind of keeps looping back to, I think the earth will kill us before we ever kill it.
Sure. You might appreciate this, but as a Christian, I am open to that idea of us being in a simulation. That might sound crazy, but that's another thing when I tell people,
a lot of shit. That would explain a lot of shit.
Here's the thing, like, as much as I give atheists a hard time, I give my side a hard time just as much. I give Christians a really hard time that act like they have everything figured out, that they know everything, that they're beyond correction. Like that, honestly, I get angrier at a lot of
devil's advocate.
Huh?
Look at you being devil's advocate.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell them this. Like, I'll say, guys, like, from a Christian perspective, it's all about faith. Like that's what our whole life is based on. What does that mean? And they would say, oh, well, I have faith in God. Yeah, but you also have to have faith that God exists, because he's not standing here in your dining room having tea with you. Like, when people say in my side a lot, they'll say, oh, I spoke to God and God told me this and God told me that. I call bullcrap every time. Like, I'm just like, listen, I'm a Christian. I put my faith in Jesus. I believe he was who he said he was, and he is who he says he is. I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you I've met Jesus Christ and we've had a conversation and, I was on like some DMT trip and I saw the reality, I saw like this reality peel away and oh, this is all a simulation. Like, I have faith, meaning I don't know it's 100% true. I have reasons I believe in what I believe in, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I 100% know the truth, because I don't think anyone, if they're being honest, can 100% know a lot of things, like, so that's just something. I think I'll sit, a lot of times I don't even like going to church, because I'll sit there and just, there's a lot of brainwashing going on, and there's a lot of people just sitting there drinking whatever the pastor's saying or the priest or whatever denomination they are, and they're not thinking for themselves, and like, it's dangerous. There's like,
there can be
there's a lot of indoctrination. I actually, for me, this is just me. I know this isn't popular. I'll sit there and scrutinize the pastor the whole time, where everyone else is like, this is such a positive message. I'm sitting there. Yeah. I'm sitting there going, I don't know if I agree with that. Or, oh, he just made a generalization, or, that wasn't right. And some people might think that's pessimistic. I think we're supposed to be skeptical. I think I even think that Christ taught to be skeptical. I think that's what we're not supposed to just blindly believe things or accept things. Now, I know there is a point, it might sound hypocritical, because there is a point in having faith where there is some blindness, but that's what faith is all about. It's just like in Last Crusade when Indy had to, walk the bridge. He didn't know that bridge was there, but he had to, take the leap of faith. That was the blind step he took. Ended up being right. And that's what I hope. Basically, that's true. That's true. He did throw those across. You're right. Yeah. That's right. Yes. No, you're right. He did. He had a little bit like, oh, okay. And I always did think that scene was like, if he would have just got down low enough, he probably would have been able to see it, because it was like kind of an illusion. But, I think people get the point I'm trying to make. There's a little bit of evidence, and then there is a point where you have to make some sort of leap. But I think even without faith, people that trust the mainstream media, they're basically doing the same thing. They don't know what they're being told is 100% true. They're believing what they're told. Also, in school, every textbook that you read was written by a man or a woman, by a human, and we all just blindly just trusted that, oh, that must have gone through a pretty a good test to make sure that it's all accurate information. Well, textbooks, they change as time goes on. So what we were taught, like especially with math and stuff, like I think math nowadays is completely different. It's taught different than it was even 10 years ago. Yeah. And
you start going into algebra and calculus. then it makes
Yeah,
sense.
and I suck at math.
At that point, you just keep with the regular algorithms.
Right. So like things change. So what you were taught 10 years ago could be completely different than what kids are being taught today. So it's like that's one of those things where I don't think anyone should put 100% of their eggs in any basket. We should all be open and say, okay, well, I could be wrong, but I have reason to believe that I'm right. You know, I think that's the healthier way of putting it. And again, like, go ahead.
People do have to realize that they're human, so they need to have humility. There needs to be humility.
Yeah, as smart as humanity is compared to every other sentient being, we're still pretty dumb. Like we don't know a lot of things. Like look at the ocean. How much do we know about the ocean? Isn't it like 90% unexplored? Like there's so many things we don't know about the ocean, and we've been living here for however many years. It's crazy to think about. I also think about how vulnerable we are. Like I know you like Joe Rogan. Did you listen to when he had the astronaut on like a few months ago, like 6 months ago or something like that?
No, I only recently watched a few.
Okay.
Because he had like Rob Zombie on, and I'm a big,
He has all kinds of people.
I'm like, hell yeah, Rob Zombie talking for like an hour and a half. Yeah.
But to think about like, and I guess part of why I'm a man of faith is I do think that not everything is random chance. Like I think we're this little marble in this vast universe, and it just seems too good to be true that we just ended up here, and all this, like there was this big bang, and all of a sudden we're just, and I'm not saying I don't believe in the big bang, or I do. I actually think that God and science can be intertwined. So I think the big bang could have happened, but I also could think that maybe someone made the big bang happen. And a sentient being made the big bang happen, not just unguided processes that just happened, right? But anyway, I think that the fact that we're
careful with that, because then that goes down the rabbit hole of who created God.
You could say that, or we could say that he's an eternal being, or it, or she, or whoever. The idea of God could be eternal, and we could say, well, we don't really see, is the universe eternal? Like these are questions, obviously, that people have been going back and forth with forever. Is it possible? Here's what I'll give you. You might appreciate this. When people say God can do anything, I'll say, no, he can't. I'm a Christian, and I say that. God cannot do anything.
Crush him.
Say that again. That it didn't come through.
God cannot create a burrito big enough to squash him to death.
Yeah. I'll say God can't put toothpaste back in the tube.
Because I grew up in church, and theology has always been a hobby of mine, and different theologies. Yeah. Because I think the stories are really unique. That was like entertainment back in the day. If you were Roman, you sat around the campfire and you talked about the gods, and Atlas is holding up the world right now. This was the entertainment and the way to explain how things happen, how fire was started and whatnot. But through all the theology and whatnot, there is kind of gets to a point where, it
gets crazy, man.
I don't think that it should be. I kind of like it as the fairy tale. I'd rather keep it as the fairy tale. Learn from it. Like Jesus Christ is a great character.
Yeah, like the message.
Get that message. Love thy neighbor. Go ahead. Yeah, but I don't think that should be taken. I hate to say this, too seriously, because so much death on this world has happened because of people fighting over whose God's better.
Oh, that's true. That is objectively true. Yes.
And I don't know. I've seen so much hate. I mean, crap. I'm told I'm created in God's image, but then I need to cut the tip of my penis off. The circumcision. I mean, so I have my own. So if God is real, and if I am, met with him one day, I have a huge bucket list of shit, and I might say, I still might have some curse words from him too.
Here's what I tell people. If God is real, okay, let's just say he is. We know it. We'll just say he is. Okay, God's real. If God loves every single human being with a love that we couldn't even fathom, right? The only thing we can possibly relate it to is maybe the love you have for your children, or the love you have for your parents, whatever. Let's just say that. So he exists and he loves us. My whole point with that is he also wants us to spend eternity with him if he loves us. Just like we would want to spend eternity with our kids. We wouldn't want them to die. We want to live forever with them. So if he has that same exact kind of love for his creation, he wants us to live with him forever, but he also respects free will. So he's not going to force anybody into heaven kicking and screaming against their will. So that's why I tell people the concept of hell, very harsh concept. Nobody likes that, Nobody wants to think about that. But I always tell people from the Christian theological standpoint, hell isn't some place that God just wants to throw people in. Now, he does want to punish what he would say is sin. Again, this isn't me speaking factually. I'm speaking theologically, right? This is just what I would say is my worldview. I'm not trying to preach to people here. Hell, if God is all things good, like the Bible would say he is, he's the standard of good, he's all things good. What would happen if you would take all good away, right? Let's just say our world for a second. If every decent person disappeared suddenly and all we were left with were the scumbags, the Kim Jongs of the world, maybe some people would say the Donald Trumps of the world. I wouldn't, but some people would, yeah. All the really bad people who only care about themselves, who have no concept of helping others. It'd be a pretty bad place, right? Like it'd just be nonstop violence and chaos and war, and it would crumble pretty quickly. And it would just be a terrible like fallout, just nuclear bombs flying left and right. It'd be bad. Well, I tell people if God's real and all that stuff.
Us right now.
Yeah, right. According to Christianity, if God's real and he's all those good things, hell is simply the absence of good. So what do you get? You don't have hope then, because hope's a good thing. We all strive. We all have hope. So if you take hope away, people that are suicidal feel like they don't have hope, right? So if there's nothing to live for, why am I here? And that's unfortunately a lot of people don't have hope that are suicidal. So if you took that away, took joy away, took happiness away, took peace away, peace meaning you feel good, you're not ill, you're not sick, that's what hell would be. So that's what we explain. It's not just this place where, again, this is all theological. I'm not trying to speak. This is fact. But according to Christianity, hell is a place that even Satan himself doesn't want to go to. Like if Lucifer exists, right, and he's been given some power by God over this world, which is what the Bible says, that he's like God with a lowercase g over the planet Earth. Lucifer's actually not below us, and I don't believe hell's in the center of the earth, okay? I think if it exists, it's in another dimension, because I do believe in other dimensions. Hell and heaven are in different dimensions. We're in this 3D physical dimension. God and demons and angels, they're all outside. I know I sound like Alex Jones right now going off, but they're all outside of this 3D dimension that we exist in. So like think of it like a video game. I would say like the universe is like a box, a skybox, and then the creator is outside of this skybox. He sees the beginning, middle, and end. Time exists, past, present, and future, all at once, right where he's at. My biggest theological question is this, Kip, and I'm sure you can understand this. Have you ever thought of this one? According to Scripture, Lucifer rebelled, right? At some, let's just say we'll just say 1 trillion years ago, during eternity, God was perfect and he had his angels with him. They were in perfection. And then Lucifer got power hungry. And he was actually God's favored angel, right? He was like the best angel. According to Scripture, this is what it tells us. Lucifer was the best angel. He was like a prime, perfect example of which he could be. And he was like a favorite of God's. Well, then he got power hungry and decided which proves right there that there was free will in heaven at that time. So he had the choice to say, you know what? I want to be in charge. I don't like you anymore. I want to be in charge. And this is where my critical thinking goes off. I could say this, how do we know that Lucifer wasn't right? Like some people might think that's blasphemy. We don't. We assume because we're told in Scripture he's the bad guy, right? So I get the argument when some people say, well, maybe Lucifer, like some Satanists would say, maybe Lucifer was right, and that's why we want to be like him, because maybe God was turning into a dictator. And I would say I agree. Maybe, I don't know. I just, I don't think so, but I don't know. I can't say I know that. I'm trying to be honest here, not say, oh, this is exactly how it was, But let's just say that with the Bible's account of it's true, and that Lucifer was a power-hungry guy, and he was like the Donald Trump of heaven at that point, right? And I was like, get him out of here. So God said, sorry,
The Satanic Church, the Satanic Temple. No, sorry, the Church of Satan. My apologies. Church of Satan is very big on the Twitter. And they sat there and said, no, Donald Trump is he was Presbyterian or whatnot. We're tired of Satan getting the bad rap.
Anyway, let's say though that God said
Satan's doing the right thing then.
Right.
Supposedly.
But yeah, what I'm getting at is that's a hypothetical, but let's just say the Bible is 100% true with what it's saying. So God banishes Satan, and a third of his angels went with him, it tells us. So that's a lot of people that teamed up with Satan and said, you know what, I'm going with this guy. Screw you, God, we're out of here. So a third. Yeah. So they rebelled, and then, God gave him some power, though. He said, okay, well, here's this planet Earth, I'm going to create, and I'm going to give you limited power over it. So it's like he didn't just banish him forever and say, screw you, you're done. He actually gave the guy some power, like according to Scripture, and said, you can have this earth for a time, and there's going to be free will. There's going to be these people on there. So then hell was created, and people get this wrong all the time in Christianity. They assume what Hollywood has told them is true, that hell is this fire and brimstone place where Satan's sitting on a throne, and there's all these demons down there with pitchforks, and they're torturing people. Well, that's not scriptural.
It's Divine Comedy. If you go back, and we're talking way before the states were around. He's an Italian writer. The Divine Comedy, it's a collection of poems, and that's when we first Virgil, and Dante is met by Virgil and goes through the 7 layers of hell. So that's
layers of hell. I heard that.
The depiction of that from that poem.
See, as Christians, we're supposed to just take what the Bible says. That's our standard. So, like, if Jesus describes hell a certain way, we can't start adding or subtracting from his definition, because now it's just our opinion. So we'd say, okay, well, if Jesus said that hell is this place of outer darkness, what's that mean? It sounds like people are in pitch black. They're just in this pitch black realm where there's nothing good. So he said there'd be weeping. Well, that makes sense. If there's nothing good, well, then, people are going to be crying because they're upset. There's no happiness. There's no joy. What's the opposite of that? Sadness, right? And upset, no hope. People are going to cry when there's no hope. And he says gnashing of teeth, like basically people are just making angry, upset faces because, they're in misery. They're in pain. So it's like it doesn't actually talk about people burning until that's in Revelation when it talks about the final death.
Which honestly, I wanted Mel Gibson to do that part of the Bible. I thought wouldn't
that be awesome? Right, man, that would be a crazy movie. That'd be a very expensive movie. But there's a whole other thing with Revelation. The reason it's one of the hardest books to talk about is because it's really hard to tell what parts of it are literal and what parts of it. We're talking about a guy from a time before a lot of scientific advancement. So, like, if he says, I saw an ocean or a swarm of locusts coming, and if he saw into the future, he's probably seeing attack helicopters, But he wouldn't know what to call an attack helicopter. So he would say, that's the closest thing we have here is locusts. So that's why you don't know exactly what the guy's talking about. It's a lot of crazy, DMT trip stuff.
When the Bible was being put together, after the Torah and whatnot, after the Hebrew, when the Bible, Christianity was being put through, and when the council and whatnot, the Catholics were deciding which books to put in, they're like, definitely we need 4 of the Gospels. So the one that we don't know if this is Matthew, we'll contribute it to Matthew because it seems like how it was writing was Matthew, so we'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's even the Mary Magdalene chapter, which I would love to read. Spending time in that Vatican library, I would love. Whether
real stuff to research,
still be great. But
there's tons of books that they have taken out of the Bible over the years. I mean, every so many years they would get together and rewrite shit, take stuff out.
Revelation
Gospel of Thomas
was almost not in there because most of the members said this sounds like the babbling of a madman. And
it does.
Somebody in the back was like, so now it's like Old New Testament. It's like Old Testament, fire brimstone, just put it in.
Here's my question. Like, let's just say, for the sake of argument, the Bible is 100% true.
Okay.
It will prove itself to be true. If it's true, it will one day prove itself to be true with Revelation. Because imagine if that stuff all starts happening like verbatim, people are going to say, holy crap. Like, if it is true, imagine being in that generation where like you're seeing outside your window all the crazy things that are described in that. You'd be like, oh my gosh. Like, could you imagine?
Have you ever looked up a biblical accurate angel?
A biblical accurate angel?
Yes.
I don't think so.
If after this, which unfortunately we are going to go in a few minutes, but
yeah, you cut me off whenever, guys.
Biblical translated the actual look of what an angel's supposed to look like, going back the old doctrines and whatnot. It's this weird circle, and it looks creepy. I think it's awesome, but I like creepy things. But having that, when you look at one of those and thinking, how is that going to play a trumpet? Because the angels are supposed to come out, the 7 trumpets, have them start blowing, because they open up the 7 scrolls and such. The beast with the 6 sticks on the head. That would look awesome.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Well, let me wrap up real quick then. If God is all those things, I believe that he will make it a point at some point in every individual's life to contact them somehow in a way that they can't explain. Maybe it's in the physical realm, maybe it's in a dream. But if this God exists and he truly loves us and he truly wants us to live with him forever, I would think that he would make a way to somehow, some way, whether subtly or overtly, communicate, because everyone's different. We all have different lives, different experiences, different ways of thinking. I would think that would be a thing he would do. He would reach out to us in some way, and say, hey, here I am, I exist. What?
Through Joseph Smith, the place in New York. Oh, that was the most neurotic stuff ever.
Yeah.
Or there's the Quran too, Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do have, in the Quran, they do have Jesus as a real person.
Mm-hmm.
The Quran contradicts itself because I think it counts the Bible, or at least the Old Testament, as canon.
Yes.
But then the Bible claims to be exclusively true, which means it denounces the Quran. So how can they both coexist?
Where the Quran hits it, I think
both be true.
Scary is they say that they are the one true and final religion. Christianity says that the one true religion. They say they have that and the final religion. I'm like, please don't blow us all up. But yeah,
and that's only the radicals we're talking about, right? I think the faith itself is radical, but every Muslim should be judged as a person because we're all individuals,
I think how us as Americans look at Muslims is different than if we were over Middle East, because they over there they still push gays off of the top of buildings and kill them.
Oh yeah, it's rough. It's rough. Women just got the right to drive, I think, recently.
Yeah, they have to wear the habib.
They're very progressive.
You cannot die a virgin. So if you are sentenced to death, they will rape you before they kill you. If you're sentenced to death. Instead of doing the foreskin of the penis, they cut off the clitoris of the female.
Oh gosh.
Because I guess they're like,
that somehow sounds worse. That somehow sounds even more painful.
Yeah. I think it's meant to dull the sexual pleasure or whatnot.
Yeah, a lot of
and helps make them complacent, more complacent then. I'm not sure.
Wow.
They believe that if you're watching a Muslim woman, and if you masturbate to her, she is the one that sinned. She is going to hell for that.
That's kind of backwards.
Yeah. Definitely going back to the old men higher than women stand true.
Yeah.
Like more Old Testament. I did think that was funny. One of the running.
How about this? More ancient world, because even in U.S. history, it was like that, barring the Bible at all. U.S. history, it was like that up until, what, the 40s, maybe, 50s?
Years ago.
Yeah. Well, you know, you had the
so-
slaves from the neighboring nations. You know, that's.
Yeah.
You should have took that one, not literally.
Yeah. But if you guys got to wrap it up, I do appreciate you having me on.
It was fun.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on.
It was. It was. Next time, hopefully I can come in person.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
If you want to do it next time. I'm assuming.
Again, honestly, I could talk to you for hours. I love your
I
brain.
could go on for hours.
You have a great cerebellum. And
My butt cheeks are sore right now, so they're like, get up.
Well, I got a 2-year-old birthday party to start heading to.
All right, man.
But yeah, just in closing, is there? If there's one thing that you could say to the whole entire world, no matter what it is, go for it.
Okay. Be open to talking to people different than you. That's what I would have to say.
This is episode 4 of Simply Having Idiosyncratic Talk. I am your man, Kip Schmidt, along always partner, Charles. And
nice meeting you, Chuck.
there is Dallas.
Thanks.
Oh, peace and chicken grease.
Sayonara.